Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to DeFi stage of Web3 Festival. I'm Sherry from Wanxiang Blockchain Labs, thrilled to be your host today. Today we will dive deep into the world of DeFi and explore the latest innovations and trends that are driving this rapidly growing industry. We have a stellar lineup of speakers who will share their insights and experience with us. They come from various corners of the world with diverse background and expertise in different areas of DeFi, including liquidity, MEV, derivatives, compliance, and more. We will also hear from some of the most visionary minds who will share their perspectives on the future of DeFi and the potential investment opportunities. So get ready for a day full of stimulating discussions, informative talks, and networking opportunities. Let's kick off the event. First up, we have Charles DeHash, CEO of DYDX Foundation. Despite not being able to join us in person, he will be sharing his insight with us remotely. Let's welcome him to present on DYDX protocol, democratizing access to financial opportunities. Welcome.
A very good morning. My name is Charles Dossi. I'm the CEO of the DYDX Foundation, and I'm delighted to join you today at the HashKey Web3 Summit. I'd like to thank HashKey for having me today and joining you, as well as for all their contribution to the industry over the past years. In the coming minutes, I will tell you more about DYDX, which is a leading decentralized finance protocol, about our history, why are we moving to Cosmos, and where do we stand in terms of experimentations with decentralized autonomous organizations such as DAOs. Let's get started and look a little bit at where we are today. Today we are building and keep building and evolving the internet. And I believe if we put this in terms of time frame, we are at the very beginning of this evolution. Obviously, the internet is all over us today. Central banks are building CBDCs. We use internet hours every day for most of our life. But in terms of timeline, this is only the beginning of innovation. So if we look at the internet as well as crypto in general as an industry, we can see that a lot of events have already happened, such as Bitcoin, Genesis, Ethereum, or lately Cosmos, but there is many more things to come. And it's very interesting to think and kind of project ourselves and thinking that we are building really foundations for the future of the internet. And that's what we call Web3. I believe as well that we are essentially, as societies, migrating from a bureaucratic age to an algorithm age. Artificial intelligence, blockchains, technology in general is taking more and more pivotal place in our societies, and we will depend more and more on algorithm surrounding us. And blockchain is one of the best tools for us to essentially keep striving into these new digital societies. DeFi, decentralized finance, has also demonstrated over the past years that it's essentially making the internet a composability factory. By composability, we mean that essentially from one project, you can provide a project and having a business or a service you provide to the internet users in general, but also providing a foundation for someone else to build on the top of your own infrastructure. So a little bit like Legos, these toys for young children. The internet has demonstrated over the past years that this concept of composability and building on the top of each other or with others is really something extremely powerful. All these new potentials of the internet powered by blockchain comes with responsibilities. The first responsibility for us involved in decentralized finance is to remain engaged with our regulators, not only advocating for DeFi, but demonstrating that a lot of the decentralized finance capabilities are essentially aligned and can really fit with the objectives of regulators. So not only pitching, but demonstrating is, I believe, the best way for the industry in general to engage and keep progressing with the regulators. There is also an important pieces of education to share with our industry, with our societies in general, and it's really helping the people to essentially differentiate money crypto from technology crypto. We are definitely progressing in this, aware of what is pure speculations and what is technology, enhancing and providing support for many initiatives in our space. And I think it's important to keep this effort of education and separating speculation, money crypto from technology, which is enabling, for example, CBDCs, but also the full space of the crypto industry in general. So it's not only about speculation, but technology is definitely here, and we have to make the best of it with the collaboration of everyone. There is also a responsibility for us, or at least a way for us to improve, is essentially looking with new lenses at our industry in general and the jargon we are using in our industry. I think it's potentially in some cases some kind of challenge for newcomers in our industry when you think of the words and the wording we are using. If you think of a non-custodial wallet, what does it mean for newcomers in our space? Does it mean that the money is not exactly in your wallet or your tokens are not exactly in the wallet? It's very technical and sometimes a little bit scary for newcomers. Thinking of permissionless type of infrastructure of project means there is no permissions. How is it perceived by newcomers? Immutable, trustless. So there is a lot of different things to consider about how we word things in our space. I think it's important as well to keep building decentralized finance with really the products and projects in general, which keep the user intention at the center of the product design. That's extremely important. No hidden agenda. We cannot claim that everything is transparent if the products are built in a way that eventually a few things are hidden and potentially represent risk. So it's important to have this ethos and ethics within the industry. And this is something we are definitely supporting at DYDX when the community is building the protocol, making sure that the user intention are really always the priority in any design of the protocol. Talking about users, we need to keep improving the user experience. Web3 is full of potential, is progressing extremely fast, but there is still a lot of work to be done in terms of user experience in general. And I'm thinking here more specifically about the custody infrastructure in general as well. There is a lot of progress being made. We can think of MPC's wallet, we can think of regulated custody. All of this is an important piece of a healthy decentralized finance ecosystem for all of us, and that's something we should keep striving for. And also, I will say in the continuation of the decentralized finance is coming the topic of decentralized autonomous organization, and essentially making sure that they enable public goods and public infrastructure the same way layer ones, for example, blockchains, are enabling these users with new possibilities and new infrastructure to benefit from better infrastructure in general. Let's talk and deep dive into decentralized finance or DeFi. I'll start with a small joke. I don't need sex. By sex, I mean centralized exchanges. Decentralized finance is essentially an evolution of the financial infrastructure in crypto, and there is this kind of two categories now: the centralized crypto with some exchanges you might be aware of, and the decentralized crypto. And there is this acronym called SEX, which I wanted to kind of joke with. So I hope you appreciate that. The big advantages of DeFi are obviously relying on public networks, which allows everyone to operate on 24/7 basis, providing liquidity to those markets 24/7 as well, every day of the year. The uptime is also the best in class. Global accessibility, lower cost of settlements, improved security, greater user control is also a key proposition from the DeFi space in general, as well as lowering the counterparty risk. When you use centralized facilities, there is a counterparty risk, and essentially you leave the ownership of your asset to move them to these exchanges. When you use well-designed DeFi, you essentially remain in full property of your asset, and essentially mitigate this counterparty risk. And there is also lower switching cost if you want to move from one platform to another. So there is multiple opportunities for users to leverage DeFi. It's a category of the crypto industry which is progressing very well. Let's have a quick look and kind of a zoom in into the history of DYDX. DYDX was founded by Antonio Giuliano, which is a former engineer coming from Coinbase. It was first existing in 2017 and built on the top of Ethereum as a layer one. Very quickly, the product evolved as a decentralized protocol for decentralized finance and decentralized exchange with an order book type of architecture, and migrated later on to a layer 2 called Starkware, which is the current version of DYDX. The community and many stakeholders are very busy nowadays building the version 4 of DYDX, which is essentially our own blockchain for the community, the DYDX chain, and essentially it's really an application becoming a protocol, and we will kind of double click on this in a few minutes. The DYDX v4 is built out of the Cosmos SDK, and is essentially a customized chain dedicated to this very successful application. If you want to learn more about DYDX, its ecosystem, the main players, and all the people active in this ecosystem, don't miss the ecosystem report, which was issued a few months ago, which really gives you a great snapshot on everything happening at DYDX. DYDX as a protocol has been supporting 460 billion US dollar of volume for the year 2022. And it's essentially at the same time progressing as a community effort on building the version 4. So it's a very well established, I would say, infrastructure for the decentralized finance players, and everyone is very excited and supportive of the upcoming version 4 of DYDX, which is coming out of different milestones. There is 5 milestones, and essentially the community have reached the milestone number 3 for now, which is the kickoff of the private testnet, involving some initial tests before the mainnet launch, which should be happening later this year. Why are we building DYDX version 4? And why are we, as a community, not staying on the current infrastructure? Essentially, the community has decided to keep progressing on the decentralization aspect of DYDX, and making sure that the matching engine, part of the order book, and the sequencer, for example, find a place in a decentralized architecture, which is not always possible with layer 2s, for example. So DYDX version 4 will enable this, I would say, progress in the roadmap of decentralization. There is also an opportunity for us to progress in terms of decentralization using DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, where essentially the community will be leading the progress of this protocol, which is open source in version 4, and decide what kind of direction the protocol will be taking. Building our own chain as a community is also an opportunity to improve the performance overall of the protocol, increasing the throughput, as well as essentially accelerating further the finality of trades. Having an open source platform is also calling for new features in the platform if the community decide to be built by contributors. We can think, for example, possibly of spot margin or some other synthetic products. So a lot of conversation will be happening, and the community will decide how these things will be evolving. What is very interesting and important to capture here is that DYDX is really evolving from being an application to becoming a protocol, by having this full source code being open source, as well as building his own chain, and essentially becoming an open source protocol led by the community. So it makes it a very interesting project, which I really invite all of you to follow. The technology chosen by DYDX for this version 4, upcoming version 4, is the technology of Cosmos. So Cosmos is essentially an SDK. It allows to build an application chain or app chain. And the opportunities in the Cosmos ecosystem is to be a sovereign chain, like a standalone blockchain, but you have also the opportunity to connect to the larger ecosystem of Cosmos, where there is many more blockchains for different applications and connect them. So it's a natural fit for DYDX. It allows us to really get a design which is optimized for the use case of the DYDX chain and the DYDX application in general, and help us to essentially progress further in the decentralization of the protocol in general. The order book, which used to be off-chain, will be this time decentralized and will be sitting in the RAM memory of the validators of the chain. So that's a very ambitious, very interesting engineering architecture, which many people will be looking with close eyes on it to make sure that they get the best of this kind of leap forward from the DYDX community and engineers involved with that. The token holders will be in full control of the DYDX chain and ecosystem. That's also a very, very interesting dynamic. Let's take a small break for the technical people in the room, if you don't mind. So DYDX chain is using Tendermint and is built with the Cosmos SDK. There will be an implementation of ABCI callbacks so that people can essentially start to connect and prepare and check the transactions, prepare proposals, deliver transactions, and commit. That's the way the consensus within the chain will be reached. As I mentioned earlier, the decentralized autonomous organization agenda, DYDX v4, is progressing well. Today there is two DAOs which are in place. The first DAO is the Grants DAO, supporting various initiatives from builders in the ecosystem of DYDX. And there is also recently the launch by the community of the Operations DAO, which will be supporting various other DAOs and activities of the ecosystem in general. So all of this is progressing well. The community is building very diligently all the necessary infrastructure for the community and the upcoming protocol to be thriving. Decentralized autonomous organization DAOs comes also with governance. So I'm pleased to share with you some of the governance achievements from the protocol and the community over the past months. Essentially, 2022, 30 different proposals have been voted either via snapshots or on-chain. With up to standard participation from the different delegates and token holders. And this has enabled essentially the version 3 of DYDX to leverage the community and get the guidance from the community to decide what kind of progress should be made towards version 4. If you want to participate in the ecosystem of DYDX, it's an open ecosystem. It's a very much welcoming ecosystem. There is different places you can start from. Think of the dydx.community website, DYDX grants if you want to build on DYDX chain or ecosystem, or build some integrations in some shape or forms. But think also of the whole information dashboards and kind of resources from dydxdao.info, dydxopsdao.com, and also the DYDX Foundations, which is trying to essentially offer some kind of overview of all the different initiatives happening in the space. Thanks a lot for your attention today. I'm delighted to join again the HashKey Web3 Summit. I wish everyone a very successful summit as well as a very fruitful conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Charles, for your inspiring speech. Next, we had the pleasure of hearing from Reda Bear, CEO and co-founder of Dodo. He will be delivering a keynote on liquidity on-chain, DeFi's new area of liquidity provision. Please join me in welcoming Reda Bear to the stage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rita Bear, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Dodo. Today, I want to introduce a paradigm shift of on-chain liquidity. So, So DeFi began with AMMs. You all know AMMs, but AMMs is lack of the capital efficiency. So we developed some central concentrated AMMs, which we can call it CMM, like Uniswap version 3 and Dodo. However, these algorithms allow us to implement proactive market making, so you can concentrate your liquidity near some price to get higher capital efficiency. But there is still very serious problems like the impermanent loss. It still persists and even serious. Some research shows that most of the retail RPs suffer much bigger loss on Uniswap version 3 than version 2. That is because when you concentrate your liquidity, you will face bigger risk. So of course you can have higher trading volume, but there is a higher possibility to be arbitraged by others. So that is because the retail LPs don't have the necessary skills to manage their risk. But we found that there are some experts really good at manage the risk, and they don't have any permanent loss. They can earn a 25% to 50% annualized profit, very stable. They worked on Dodo for 2 years and they don't have any loss. They just earn a lot of money. So we get deep into these experts to see what they did. So here are some secrets. First, they will hedge their positions. For example, if their Ether is bought by someone else, they will also buy Ether at other platform like Binance, so they can make their positions unchanged. They will always be risk neutral. So no matter how the price of Ether, no matter it's like going down or like going up or down, their risk is always neutral. And second, they will avoid risks. When the market becomes volatile, they will withdraw the money as soon as possible, faster than anyone else, so they can avoid being arbitraged. So this requires a 24/7 monitoring and very quick response. So that is also like a very high skill thing. And third, this expert have very robust infrastructure. So like they can front run others, or they can monitor all the market signal. So all these things are very, very professional. So of course we can introduce the secrets. So of course we can introduce all the secrets to the retail LPs and like told them how to do to avoid risk and how to earn enough profit. But how many people can do that? Very few, because they don't have the necessary skills, they don't have the development skills. So we came into an idea that how about combine the expert strategy and the fund of retail LPs. You can see you guys think that is a leveraged AMM, means that the expert use the fund of retail LPs to market making. So here is the paradigm shift. So first we have AMM. At this stage, the risk is totally self-responsible, that you need to take all the risk yourself. And there is no room to like change the risk scale. And when we came into CMMs, the risk is also self-responsible, but you can manage. You can make your risk sometimes higher, sometimes lower, so to like in response to different market situations. And now we have LMM, the leverage market makings, means that you do not need to take the risk yourself. Some expert will take it for you. They will take the risk and also the profit. For the retail LPs, you just need to choose some expert to help you manage your asset and provide very good liquidity on chain. So LLM is a win-win-win solution. So it is not double win, it's win-win-win. So for the retail LPs, you don't need to take risk. You will have real yield and a minimized impermanent loss. For the experts, they can leverage their strategy, means they can get higher profit rate. And for the traders, of course, it is a better liquidity than ever before. They can trade any token with a better price. So let's go deep into this design. So how the LMM work. The expert provide margin to raise fund from retail LPs, and they can tune the price of the pool to like follow the price of the market. So the takers can trade with a very good price. And for the LPs, they just provide money and get some very stable interest as return. So whenever the expert So whenever the expert incur too much loss, we will of course liquidate them to protect the retail LPs. And we have some better things than Uniswap for the experts. We provide better tool for them to give them more flexibility. First, Dodo version 3 is a mixed asset pool. Means that you can hold different assets in a single pool. For example, if you have like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and USDC in a same pool, you can provide 3 trading pairs at the same time. That is Ether to Bitcoin, Ether to USDC, and Bitcoin to USDC. That can save you a lot of money. And second, each expert has an independent pool. Means you are really flexible to do anything. You can change the price, change the fees. Like also you can just delist some token or list some token you want. It's really flexible, and we will aggregate all the liquidity using our smart rod. And the last is also very important. We have really low gas fee. It is like 1/10 of what you will cost Uniswap version 3, because adjustment of the price is the majority cost of these market makers. If you can give them a super low gas fee of price adjustment, that will make their profit rate get to the next level. And that is what we did. And that is only on Dodo version 3 you can get such a low price fee, such a low gas price. And I want you to know that these experts can be anyone. For example, it can be some big market makers like Jump or Wintermute, and it can also be some individual developers. So these guys, they maybe have a full-time job, but they're really talented. They can do some research in their spare time and maintain a pool to be profitable. So you don't need to have strong background or resources. You just need to prove your on-chain. So that is the advantage of DeFi and smart contract. You can really combine the smart money, the intelligence of some talents with fund from retail LPs, and we can combine them together to get a super good liquidity. So if you think you are the expert that can manage a pool, you can contact us. Dodo version 3 is, we finished the develop, and it is in beta testing. We want you to let us know what can we help to onboard you to Dodo version 3, and we can make profit together. So, by the way, if you are not familiar with Dodo EX, you can contact us at dodoex.io. So, thank you, that's all. Yeah, I think we still have 10 minutes. Is there any like FAQ?
Do you have any question to ask our speaker? 有什么问题可以跟嘉宾交流啊？
Okay, so if you have questions, just like send emails or just like we can make a face-to-face talk later. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rita Bell, for informative presentation. Next, we had Sophie Liu, data scientist of EigenFi, who will present on unlocking the potential of DeFi, exploring MEV impact, and examining the risks of market liquidity manipulation. Welcome, Sophie.
Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Sophie Liu, the data scientist from EigenFi. And we are a leading research firm and platform that is specializing in on-chain data analysis and with a particular focus on the MEV data. So today's topic is unlocking the potential of DeFi. So I'm going to use the following time to take everyone to exploring the MEV's impact and also to examine the risks of the market liquidity manipulation. So to begin with, I'm going to provide a review of MEV's market of last year in 2022. And then, since it's already the beginning of April, I think it's a good time to review the MEV's market and MEV's performance for the first quarter of this year. And I'm also hope to discuss the risks in DeFi and finally share some insights about the outlook of MEV's future. So let's start with the overview of last year. So actually, when we talk about MEV, the maximum extractable value that is derived from market, I personally think it's the most real manifestation of the on-chain liquidity. And the most well-known MEV types are arbitrage, sandwich attack, and we also say as front running and back running, and also liquidation. And all these MEV types are included in EigenFi's product on our dashboard. So we have reviewed our data of last year and calculate the MEV counts of each month in 2022. And so we all know that the Ethereum market has experienced a decline starting from the beginning of the year. And shown here with the blue line of the ETH price. So it's kept decreasing from the beginning of the year throughout the whole year. But however, we calculated the counts of the MEV transaction for each month and find out that actually there is an upward trend of MEV opportunities throughout the whole year, as shown in the bar chart here. And we can also see how much volume that MEV has bring to the market. And we calculate the total volume of MEV and see, and as shown here, MEV has contributed a total of volume of $328 billion. So this makes up almost half of the total DEX volume. And also among the total MEV volume, sandwich MEV type has contributed almost 87% of the total MEV of volume. And next, let's review how much value that has been actually extracted from the market. So we have calculated the MEV searchers' total revenue, and a total of more than $300 million has been extracted from the market. And for each MEV tab, the arbitrage is $145 million, and the sandwich is $128 million, and the liquidation is $33 million. We have also checked in detail of the MEV revenue each month. This is a revenue trend the revenue trend of each month. And we have find out, it's interesting to find out that the market has experienced a lot of significant crash of last year. So for example, like the Luna crash in May, and the STETH DPEG, and also the Celsius and the 3AC crash in June. And of course, the FTX crash in November. But the MEV searcher actually find more opportunities during those crashes. As shown in the revenue trend, those MEV searchers actually gain more revenue from those events. They were really good at utilizing the market liquidity during those events. So we talk a lot about the revenue, and actually for those MEV searchers to ensure that their transaction could be executed timely, they need to pay a certain amount of cost to the miners or block builders. So we have calculated for last year, there's a total of $133 million that was actually of the MEV revenue that was allocated to the miners or block builders who is responsible for just collecting the transaction and building the blocks. And among all the MEV rewards, again, Sandwich MEV tab has contributed almost half of the MEV rewards to the block builders and miners. So this is become a quite major actual incentive source for block building. And we also actually compare the auction market of the block space before and after the merge of last year. And it is clearly to see that the top 10 address has changed from the POW mining pools to the block builders trying to developing some new business. I think now it's very interesting to see the top one winner and the victim of last year. So the top one winner, this bot, has made a profit of $3 million, more than $3 million, from just one simple arbitrage. So you can see from the token flow chart here, this bot is doing a very simple arbitrage just between the Uniswap V3 pool and Uniswap V2 pool. So it just gained the profit of more than $3 million in one single arbitrage. So what this bot is actually doing is back running a large swap transaction during the Nomad Bridge exploit. But however, the victim is not that lucky. So this victim is actually a liquidity provider who is trying to remove the liquidity from the Uniswap V3 pool and being attacked at that time. So this poor guy just being ripped off of $35,000 in just one front running. So we have talked a lot about the MEV opportunities on Ethereum. And I think it's a good time to take a glance at the MEV opportunities on Binance Smart Chain. We have calculated the cost-revenue ratio between the two chains and find out that the Binance Smart Chain, the cost-revenue ratio, is actually one magnitude lower than on Ethereum, which could imply that the Binance Smart Chain actually offers a more cost-effective environment for MEV searchers. Okay, so it's an overview of MEV's market in 2022. And I think it's also a good time to view the MEV performance for the first quarter this year of 2023. So for the past quarter this year, I think the most significant events is USDC depegging. And also, the USDC depegging actually bring the biggest opportunities for MEV searchers on the first quarter. As shown in the, we have provided the daily revenue of MEV searchers and find out the revenue peaked on the day of USDC depeg. So for the number of the total revenue that has been extracted from market on the first quarter, arbitrage MEV tab has contributed like $40 million, and the number for sandwich is 46, and the number for liquidation is almost $2 million. Oh, sorry. So we have looked in detail of the arbitrage accounts on the day of USDC DPEG and on the day before USDC DPEG. And we found that the market information is actually ahead of the price plunge. So as shown in the counts of the arbitrage transactions, there was already an arbitrage increase before the USDC price going down. So while the panic is spreading over the market, while the panic is spreading over the market, there is a poor guy lost almost $2 million during this panic. So this is from our product AgentX to show the actual token flow. And this poor guy start with step 0 with worth $2 million of 3RV token, and then swap over only at the step 4, only 0.05 USDT. So a single swap lost $2 million. So AgentFi kept monitoring the on-chain liquidity all the time, and we actually find the signals that before the USDC depegging. So we calculated the signal showing here. We calculated the average number of large USDC transactions per block over the past 50 blocks, and for each moment before the circle's Twitter. So we found that the anomalies, you can see there is a peak there. The anomalies is ahead of the USDC price start to depeg, and this ahead is 8 hours before it. So I think it is definitely very important to monitoring the on-chain liquidity, as it could help us to forecast this kind of event beforehand. And we talk a lot about MEV's opportunities for the last year and for the first quarter this year. But I think it's a time to discuss about the risks that DeFi faces. So MEV is not just about the tabs that I mentioned earlier, like the arbitrage, liquidation, sandwich, or JIT, that is just-in-time liquidity as a new MEV tab. But there are also multiple attacks that happens in 2022. And we classified those attacks as long-tail MEV. So for example, there is an arbitrager trying to take advantage of the abracadabra cauldron's price catching design defect and attack the contract. And also, a very famous attack happened last year is the mango squeeze and the CRV shorter squeeze incidents. So those attackers actually manipulate the market liquidity and create bad debt on the corresponding lending vaults. And moreover, there's an arbitrager who benefits from the anchor attack and deposit the ABNBC token to borrow out large amount of hay, even though when the collateral was dramatically depreciated. AgentFi has done a lot of in-depth research on those attacks and on those long-tail MEVs. And we propose a framework that could be used to identify the possible design flaws of the protocol and also forecast the upcoming exploits in advance. So this framework is called tokenomic trilemma. So what this tokenomic trilemma means is it is difficult to simultaneously achieve the three conditions on this triangle. That is the free tradability, the anchored price, and the independent insurance. So any design that is trying to achieve those three conditions together would bring high risks. So based on this tokenomic trilemma, we think all the attacks to the cross-chain protocols can be classified into three categories by this framework. The first one is attacking the token's insurance mechanism. And the second is manipulating the underlying token's market illiquidity. And the third one is algorithm stablecoin. And so we think we propose this to help. Maybe it would be helpful for the forecast of the upcoming exploit in advance. And it is, because of the time limit, it is quite hard to talk in depth about this framework. But if anyone is interested, you can refer to our research paper on agenfi.io. So at last, I want to share my insights of the outlook of MEV's future. So I think with the continuous innovation of the protocols, new types of MEV will emerge, and it will bring more opportunities to the market. And we also have done a lot of research on Ethereum PBS impact on MEV. So the proposal of MEV share from Flashbots, I think it will bring significant changes to the MEV market. And MEV decentralization is also a very hot topic in the community recently. So I think the design of MEV relay is quite centralized, which actually brings concerns to the community. And at last, the uneven distribution of MEV share between the searchers and builders and validators, and as well as the loss of the normal users trying to do the swaps in the DEX, is actually bring the topic of MEV democratization. So all these topics we intended to cover in our future research. So please stay tuned if you're interested. Yeah, I think that's all my presentation. Thank you for all listening today. And please follow our Twitter. And if you're interested in MEV data, please check our dashboard on agenfi.io. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophie, for your valuable data-driven presentation. Okay. Next, we have an exciting panel discussion on the regulatory challenges and the real-world opportunities in DeFi. Please join me in welcoming our panel moderator, Mickey Mark, Web3 and Token Advisory of Outlier Ventures, and our speakers, Jakob Kronbessler, co-founder and chief commercial officer of Clearpool, Eugene, co-founder of OpenEddy, Rachel Lin, co-founder and CEO of Sing Futures, Yuzhu Liu, BD and marketing of Asia at Akala. Welcome our speakers.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our today's panel regulatory challenge and real-world opportunity in DeFi. My name is Mickey. I'm from Outlier Venture, working on Web3 advisory. We are one of the global Web3 accelerators since 2019. Today, I'm so happy that we have a few key leaders from DeFi space with us on the panel. We have Jakob, the co-founder and CCO from Clearpool, and Eugene, the founder of Open Eden, and then Rachel, the co-founder and CEO of Sim Futures, and also Yuju, the BD and marketing of Asia for Akara. Before we start, let me pass the mic for each of you to do a quick self-introduction, tell us a bit more on your personal Web3 journey and your project. Jakob, do you want to go first?
Thank you very much, Mickey. So my name is Jacob, and I'm one of the co-founders of Clearpool. Personally, I'm Italian with a very German name, from the north of Italy. My background is actually in consumer tech. So I've been with a company called Rocket Internet, and I was one of the early guys of Foodpanda here in Hong Kong and Asia. So it's like the largest food delivery company. And then I moved into fintech, and that is what really, sparked my interest for DeFi. And then like about 1.5 years ago, I started Clearpool. So Clearpool is a DeFi protocol. We're doing unsecured lending for institutions. So normally, or like the largest DeFi lending protocols are over-collateralized. We're doing a KYC, and there's a risk assessment on the borrower side. And then those borrowers, they can basically, once they're whitelisted, they can open pools, and then those pools, it's like a marketplace. Lenders can come in and they can fund those pools. We're operating since about 1 year right now, and we've originated nearly $400 million in loans so far.
Cool. Eugene, do you want to go?
Hi guys, hey. So Open Eden is a first smart contract-based vault that mints US Treasury bills. So what it means is literally you can bring and put USDC into a vault and get T-bill tokens. And that's really, we're so excited to bring real-world assets into your DeFi and on-chain. Better tested on-chain finance meets real-world assets. And this is something that Jeremy and I have been building since last year. So myself, personally, I have over 10 years TradFi experience, 6 years in crypto. So it's really exciting to be building something that I think is the intersection of TradFi and Web3, and something that it's really personal. Like, if you think about the way money moves, right? Like, you have streaming videos in the form of Spotify, you're streaming music in the form of Spotify, you're streaming videos in the form of YouTube, you're streaming data in the form of internet. But money and assets are not streaming. And the way the vault operates is it's atomic transactions, real-time settlement. You don't have to wait for US trading hours. You don't have to wait for weekend trading. It's going to mint you a T-bill token, like instant, atomic. You don't have to wait for custody to open. So that's really the beauty of blockchain. And I think that's why we're waiting for. I think this is going to be the next DeFi summer that we're going to be seeing. And so here I go, super exciting. I'm happy to share more about Open Eden in the next couple of minutes. And yeah, pass on my time to Rachel.
Thank you, and thanks, Mickey. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. As for myself, I have a very similar background with Eugene, right? I came all the way from traditional finance to fintech to CeFi and then DeFi. Started my career in traditional global investment bank before I joined fintech company to lead their blockchain efforts. And so Sim Future itself is an exciting project that we started 2 to 3 years ago. It's a decentralized derivative protocol. We employ an Amazon-like model where anyone could list any assets within 30 seconds. So currently, Sim Futures is the largest DeFi derivative protocol on Polygon, even without a tokens. And we are fortunate to be backed by the tier 1 investors, including Polychain, Framework, Pantera, Dragonfly, Standard Crypto, SIG, and of course, HashKey. And look forward to share with you and discuss with the peers here about DeFi and the futures of finance.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Yuju here. Thanks for having me. I'm from Akala Network. which is a top DeFi app chain in Polkadot ecosystem. And I'm also the co-founder of Polka Wallet, which is the first mobile wallet for Polkadot. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. As most of you are aware that in the past few years, we have experienced different crises, like last year from the Lunar to the FTX. So the regulators are placing a closer attention on the whole industry, in particular for DeFi. Like yesterday, we have SFC saying that potentially for the DeFi project, they will be subject to the licensing requirement and regulation. And also recently, we have US Treasury also released a DeFi illegal financial assets risk assessment to tackle for the AML and CFT risks. So here's a question for everyone, what's the potential challenge for the regulation to your project and protocol? Anyone wants to go first?
Yeah, maybe I can go first in line. Yeah, so I think that Clearpool being a permissionless project that basically works with smart contracts where borrowers are just meeting lenders and they're sort of interacting with each other, and it's governed by smart contracts. I think it's a little bit difficult to put this under a current existing license. So maybe the challenge would be if we would have to obtain a license such as a bank license or a broker license, which in our case and in the case of a lot of DeFi projects, we think it doesn't really apply. So I think important also, we think there's a lot of good attributes that DeFi has, like more transparency, there's more efficiency gains. So those are actually, if done well, helping to protect investors. So we really think that the regulators are looking also at those positive attributes, and they can create a regulatory framework that is special and cater to DeFi, and don't just put it under the traditional ones.
Cool. Yeah, at Open Eden, we have registered with the MES. So we do have RFMC, which is a license to engage in securities. In the BVI, we do have a registration with the FSC as well. So we take compliance very seriously. I think that's the way going forward. We spend over a year to interact with regulators. I think in the world tomorrow, regulations isn't a bad thing. If you think about it, when cars first were invented, right, there wasn't a requirement to have seatbelts or speeding limits. I think regulations ensure a safer place for mainstream adoption, and I think that's actually good for the industry. And we're starting to see many permissionless protocols, whether it's 1inch or a few others like Clearpool, they're starting to embrace KYC, AML requirements, and I'm starting to see that it's gaining traction. And I had a conversation with Uniswap, head of BD, and we're looking into geofencing, we're looking into market surveillance and things like that. That is effectively one step forward towards mainstream adoption, a safer marketplace for everyone, potentially in a permissionless way. So I think regulations isn't a bad thing. It creates a good environment for DeFi. And it's funny that the other challenge for a lot of startup companies is having that requirement to comply with, sometimes even very vague, unclear frameworks. Like for us, being a real-world asset DeFi protocol, we actually have a full-time compliance professional. It's ironical. You don't hear of any DeFi protocol hiring a compliance professional, but we feel that that's effectively paving the way for DeFi, tomorrow. And we also spoke to lawyers from the US, from the BVI, from Singapore, and it's, I would say that, pardon my language, but it's painful, but it's necessary if you want to build a global product tomorrow. And especially given that, in certain places in the US where, regulations are super tough, it's important to play by the rules and to be really careful with how you distribute your product.
Anything to add, Rachel?
Yeah, sure. We're seeing like the tightening trend of regulation, but amid the tightening, in our experience, we do find that regulators are more interested to learn about how DeFi could improve regulation. For example, Think Future's been invited to IMF and also speak with SEC commissioners in Washington, D.C. to help address the issues that centralized exchange could have and what DeFi can do to improve the transparencies and openness of regulations. We are also very actively talking to lawyers, top-tier lawyers across US, Hong Kong, Singapore, and other jurisdictions, and even considering some double licensing scheme. We do feel like regulations is something that's, I mean, on the one hand, yes, impose some of the challenges to the industry, but at the same time, it does help to drive mass adoptions. Think about it, lots of institutions can only trade with DeFi and trade with any centralized exchanges as well, only if they are properly licensed and regulated. And the regulation in itself also brings lots of policies that could help everyone, every ordinary investors to protect their own money and their own assets. So, I mean, here we also embrace regulations and we closely look at the trends of the regulation developments and hopefully that we will find a way to, I mean, like achieve better finance systems.
You, Jude?
Okay. Firstly, I want to say the license is a good thing to increase the credibility for the blockchain industry. So, for example, in the case of the FTX collapse, the Japanese regulatory advantage has been fully utilized. So profit from the strong regulatory framework. The Japanese authorities can step in quickly and effectively to protect the investor assets, which made Japanese FTX customers can get their funds back first. Yeah, and the potential regulatory challenge for us is the definition of the protocol. So, you know, the Polkadot was defined as the software months ago. So I think that's a good indication for us, and we will learn some experience from them. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, thanks everyone. Like you just all mentioned that the regulation we are expecting is coming, but lots of detail will still take time to work out to see how to have the regulation more suitable for the DeFi. And I know for Clearpool, like even though the regulation is still uncertain, you have like better prepare yourself in advance. Like for example, having the whitelisting for the institutional borrowers, also have the institutional grade permission pool. So want to ask you like, how have you like learned through this journey, like through better prepare yourself for the compliance, and also how do you see the permission DeFi in the future?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, our first product was or is permissionless. So anyone in DeFi can access that product. And now we're actually launching a new product. We call it Clearpool Prime, and it's a fully compliant product where everyone is basically KYC AML checked on the borrowing side, but also on the lending side. Now the reality is we didn't really create this product because we were thinking about like what regulation is going to be, but we actually created this product because we had a very strong business case. Because obviously the permissionless product grew and had good product market fit, but at some point we were talking to larger institutions, right? We were talking to TradFi institutions, and they said, we really love what you guys are doing, but we can't participate because we actually need to have these compliance checks in place. I would love to do it, but my compliance team is bugging me. Actually, even for crypto companies, as soon as the company got larger, and at some point, you have more compliance people than traders, they have the same requirements. So this was really a requirement, and this is why we actually built this. First, we had a pilot product with Jane Street, one of the leading trading firms from TradFi, also very active in crypto. As a borrower, it was $50 million US. It worked really well. We saw a lot of interest. I think one of the questions that a lot of people are asking, permission DeFi, what is really the point? I think it's actually a good question, right? And it's a good question because some of the very positive and exciting attributes of DeFi are obviously increased liquidity and composability, so different protocols can build on you, and all of those kind of things. They're not really applying maybe to permission DeFi as of yet, right? Because permission DeFi platforms obviously they sort of creating a little bit of a silo system, like a closed system that doesn't really interact with other systems very easily. Other protocols can't really easily build on top of them. I think two things here. First of all, I think even if not all the exciting things about DeFi can be used, you still have better accessibility, I guess, in a lot of cases. Like for example, with Open Eden, you still have more transparency. It is true that it is not really taking on all the advantages of DeFi, but I think that's where things are going to evolve to, right? There's going to be a standard of how every protocol needs to be KYC, etc. And then we can create those like ecosystems. We can create a Uniswap, which is permission. We can create all of those permission ecosystems, and then I think it's going to be exciting. And yeah, I was saying like there's a lot of players now working on this like KYC solutions, mainly like the zero knowledge proof ones. I think are quite elegant. They're still preserving privacy at the same time they're compliant, and I think they sort of like fit with the whole DeFi ethos that we have right now. So I think that's where permission DeFi is going to. It's not yet as there, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like we know that like just not beside like Kiapu, like and all of your projects, you guys trying to comply with the regulation because all of you guys mentioned that it's better and important for the institutional adoption. So I know for a carrot, you guys recently have released your new roadmap for 2023, and then one of the key part is about institutional integration. So from your interaction with different institutions, how do they see DeFi now? Like anything they want to pay in, let's start to looking for DeFi, and any barriers they are thinking they are facing if they want to get into DeFi.
Yeah, sure. So we are doing some institutional integration with Alluvia, which backed by Coinbase and Kraken. So we will provide the .LSD product for their institution clients, which name is LS Dot. So they already launched the LSEs a few months ago. Yeah. So yeah, that's what we focus on now. And then for the biggest barriers for the institution, I think is the security for their money. So yeah, and many DeFi protocol was hacked last year. So most of the fund can be returned unless the hacker exposure their IP and the team can negotiate with them. Then maybe the fund can be returned, but it's too hard, right? And it's so expensive in the law fees. So yeah, so no, I think no team will say their protocol is 100% safe. So I think, in my personal view, I think the security capability and the possibility of taking funds back in a hike is the key point for the institution to start playing DeFi. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not only for institution, for retail investor as well. Security is always number one concern of all, right?
Yep. anything to add, like for when interacting with different institutions, like trying to getting them into DeFi, any challenge you are seeing that when like talking with different traditional institutions?
For institutions,
Yeah.
you could define institutions in, I think, in two categories. One, institutions that we're referring to are not institutions in the traditional world. They are larger funds and larger, let's say more about like private bank customer, let's say that. And for them, security is always number one concern. Definitely profitability is something that they're looking for. But for the other groups, the group that drives the mass adoption, I would say would be the large institutions that right now everyone's been dealing with, like large banks, funds. They are the gateway, unfortunately, as of today, to the majority of people. So for all those institutions, yes, proper regulation, proper licensing is a condition for them to trade with you. So I'm actually feeling very excited when Hong Kong is releasing such regulations guideline, because once you have a guideline, you have a chance to be compliant, and that's something that could really drive the adoption of DeFi. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we have talked a little bit more about like the regulation just now, and now let's try to deep dive a bit more. Any interesting opportunity like going forward? I know, Rachel, you are like an expert for the derivative side. Like we know that in the traditional finance world, the trading volume for derivative is much higher than the spot trading, and we are also seeing similar shift in crypto, because like in the past few months, there's a lot of hype around the derivative like GMX, GainSliver, DYDX. We just have the keynote earlier today. So from your opinion, like compare with some centralized solution, what's the unique or special feature for the decentralized derivative products that make them outperformer? And also, and in the meantime, any challenge when you're trying to deliver such type of project into the market?
Sure. I think speak for our protocol Sync Futures first. If you compare centralized exchange to a high-end store, then Sync Futures is much more like the e-commerce platform like Amazon and Alibaba. It's a paradigm shift. Previously, you can only trade those that's defined and supplied by the high-end store, but right now with Sync Futures, anyone could list any assets within just 2 clicks. And as well, previously, I think private bank high-end store only cater for those high-end customers, let's say that. But as a DeFi platforms, we offer products to everyone, so everyone will be able to enjoy the private big bank like experience. So that's for ourselves. And in terms of DeFi overall, I would say that the case of FTX fallout speak for itself. Centralized exchange in essence is opaque and prone to a single point of failure, let's say that. But in DeFi, you can't be evil. Everything's written in code. It's transparent. It's open, and I think like you wouldn't be worried about how the protocol would be using your money, because everything's on chain. So that's the benefits that everyone now start to realize, and that's the reason why I think even ourselves enjoy an like all-time high trading volume after the FTX fallout. In terms of challenges, I would say that yes, I think like derivatives is a promising sector to look at. Although right now there are 2 bottlenecks that I'm seeing. Number one, user experience. And you have to take like 10 steps before you can make a trade. And the other thing is that derivatives require higher throughputs and better infrastructure, which we are seeing, I mean, like a better solution right now, but there is still way to go. But I think the good thing is that both of these 2 problems are being addressed by the community and by our peers, and we will look forward to see seeing good solutions coming up in the next 1 or 2 years where DeFi derivatives will really take flight. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then beside derivatives, I think another asset which could be super interesting for the public will be the real world asset. And I know Open Eden also just recently launched a new product on the tokenized US Treasury billfold. So this is a question for Eugene. Could you tell us a bit more what's the importance to bridging the real world assets to DeFi? And also any more interesting use case you could share to let us know anything we could expect for the RWA sector?
I mean, this is the whole reason why I got into crypto, ditching our investment banking careers like Rachel and I did back in the day. But, it's really, I think number one, the transparency factor. I started my career in Lehman, doing Lehman Brothers, and I think we did an internship together back in the day in Barclays, and that's how we met decades ago. And it's really epitomizes the opacity, in TradFi. One of the things that we've done in Open Eden is we have built a trustless architecture that's fully transparent. We actually have been working with Chainlink, decentralized Oracle network, that's connected via API WebSocket to our vault, to our banking accounts, to our custody, and literally showing real-time transparency of the tokens being backed, 100% backed, by underlying T-bills. And that's a true departure from TradFi. If you buy a stock, you buy a T-bill in your custody account, it's literally an update on their software. Do you actually know that you actually own that stock or T-bill? You have no idea. But with Chainlink and decentralized Oracle network connected to our systems, that encourages real-time transparency that even TradFi cannot accomplish. And on top of that, we also encourage TradFi accounting standards. So in the case of Open Eden, we do not just rely on Chainlink. We issue a daily report from our broker-dealer. We also have a monthly attestation from a certified accountant in Singapore. We also use KPMG for tax advisory. And lastly, we use a regulated fund admin in Singapore. So, combining both TradFi, accounting standards and DeFi transparency, it's sort of the breakthrough innovation that I think we're all waiting for. So that's one. Number two, if you ask people in, say, mainland China, for example, or in people in Vietnam, they can't buy T-bills. T-bills actually an asset class that I would argue that everybody should own at some point. It's really literally a risk-free rate in the world, right? At least that's what we learned for now. But it's important to understand that it is so hard to buy T-bills. The creation of tokenized T-bills, while we are permission from a day one perspective, it's already democratizing T-bills in a certain degree. We are allowing people from anywhere in the world, as long as they KYC, as long as they comply to AML standards, to buy T-bills, via our tokens. And that's also another departure. The third departure would be, not waiting for US trading hours, not waiting for, why do we have to wait for the US to buy stocks or to buy T-bills? In certain investment banks that we used to work for, you can buy T-bills during Asian hours, you can buy T-bills during European hours, but why is this not made accessible on a global scale to everyone, right? So here we are in Open Eden trying to make that 24/7 settlement that never existed in TradFi. And this is important. And so this is why, we are so mission-driven. T-bills is, scratching the surface. And a very important point that, we are talking about earlier is composability. Imagine this. When you buy T-bills from your broker-dealer, like say JP Morgan, you can only take financing from JP Morgan to level up, right? But imagine this. Buying T-bill tokens, putting into compound, taking leverage from somebody else, and that's really creating interconnected ecosystem, DeFi Lego blocks that encourage what I think is beautiful. Like it encourages an open system. And this is why I think, real world assets is interesting. This is trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, right? We're just scratching the surface. Just to give you some context, US Treasury market, outstanding supply, $25 trillion. Monthly, daily turnover, 600 billion. That's way bigger than the crypto market cap today. So what we're saying today is that, hey, we can democratize US Treasury bills, the opportunity set for crypto, for mainstream adoption, for that to happen is going to be massive. It's a massive opportunity. And this is why we're so bullish in what we're doing. And yeah.
Thank you. Like super excited for this product. Could you also quickly just give us a big hint, like beside the T-bill, for any other interesting potential product you will looking for the RWA?
This is a really good question. I think we want to focus on T-bill first, because Open Eden is really, if you think about us, we are like a bridge. We are like a compliant bridge. We play, by the rules. We're compliance professional. We have KYC, AML. But I think what's interesting is the Lego blocks. And I think the next few products will be things like potentially investment-grade bonds, private credit, things that are relatively safer than most products out there. And then gradually we'll start scaling through the risk spectrum and introduce riskier products. And I think really one thing I would like to highlight is working in institutions, which I think Rachel talked about. It's really challenging in today's context, especially post-FTX war, to work with institutions like, for example, in Open Eden case, we're very fortunate to be working with Southeast Asia's largest bank, DBS Bank. We work with guys like KPMG, we work with Saxo Bank, we work with Swiss Code, we work with Circa, Coinbase, right? So the one thing I would say is that, introducing real-world assets to crypto is also depending on the relationship we have with institutions. So it's really not as straightforward as, hey, let's bring this product on-chain. The number of conversations we had to have with regulators, with service providers it's unimaginable. Like, it's so many that it's almost painful. And I can tell you that it's really juggling that as well as, regulators and service providers to introduce new products and services.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have a few minutes left. How about let's put a crystal ball here. Let's look into the future. Any interesting trend in DeFi you guys are super exciting for? And also, do you think for DeFi it will move towards more for decentralization, or you think we will make some change with the regulation? So, Jakob.
Yeah, I think a big buzzword right now is obviously RWA, real-world assets, right? And that's usually also a bear market narrative, everyone says. But it seems like it's really, really picking up right now, right? And also we at Spire, I have the company I previously worked with, Aspire, like a digital bank lending player in Southeast Asia. We want to have them as clients as well, doing loans on Clearpool. There's a lot of exciting things going on in tokenizing real estate, tokenizing funds, tokenizing basically anything, right? Now, I think it's very exciting. I'm personally very excited about it. But obviously, anything that touches the real world always will have some centralized entity involved, right? They got to be like a custodian. So there got to be something, and it cannot be completely permissionless. So at least that sector and that narrative needs to be permissioned and needs to be regulated in some ways. I think when it comes to complete decentralization and DeFi, the only things that are really possible are DeFi, crypto-native products and projects. But anything related to the real world is going to be permissioned.
Eugene, do you have share a bit more any interesting trend you are looking for in the upcoming years?
Yeah, obviously I'm going to be biased. Real world assets is, I think it's here to stay. I think Some people like to say that it's a bear market product. I actually think that it's a bear bull market because there's so much things you can do. Think about it, right? Like if you have a lending protocol that you can pledge T-bill tokens, and you increase the LTV ratio to say 92.5%, you can literally engage in something like between 10 to even 13% in yield, where TradFi cannot even access, because in TradFi you typically take the risk-free rate and your banking fees, where they slap a large fee, and you cannot do leverage T-bill. So the opportunity set, the Lego building blocks on real assets is real, it's genuine. There's legs and there's room to run. And I think again, the market is big. So I actually am looking forward to more players, more competition. I think it's the more the merrier. I think we need to embrace as an industry together. And real world assets just, beginning. The beginning of what I think a DeFi summer will look.
Rachel.
If there's a cover story for the crypto years of 2023, I think its keyword must contain regulations. So if you ask me about one trend for this year, then regulation tightening is something that's what we just discussed about. But if you look into the next 2 or 3 years, we can see from the technical development perspective, infrastructures improvements and the user experience like account abstracts and other technologies really help drive the max adoptions. And I will look forward to a derivative summers in the upcoming 2 or 3 years.
Jude, do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, so I want to say, so I noticed some OG DeFi protocol want to expand their product, like a maker. I heard about they want to build their DEX, money market lending, and the LSD product. So I don't know whether it's a trend in the DeFi world, but it seems the strong DeFi project want to establish their own empire. So I think it would be, say, the many super DApp in the future. Yeah, so that's my view. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we have like lots of interesting projects here, from the lending, like RWA, and then the derivatives, and also the blockchain architecture underlying layer. So how about let's have some summary or conclusion for each of you. Could you give us the final thought or final words to all of our audience today, from a DeFi builder perspective, anything you want to say about it, as a final wrap up look?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, we at Clearpool, we're very excited about permission DeFi. We think this is the future. We think this is how we can also, not only get crypto native people and funds involved, but this is how we can really reach the masses, right? So that's why we see this as an opportunity to also introduce, a lot of new borrower profiles and a lot of new lender types. At the same time, we also committed to our permissionless product, which is crypto native. And we also see a rosy future for the crypto native permissionless products going forward, but we want to basically provide an experience and a platform that caters to both needs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fairly interesting in the next couple of months. One of the things I've been hearing, it's really bringing TradFi, financing and fixed income into DeFi. One of the things I've been hearing is, speaking to a lot of Oracle in the last couple of days, they're all trying to bring Fed fund rates, US Treasury bills on chain for data. And I think that's really interesting. And I think a lot of DeFi builders will be very excited that, they can start plugging into Oracle that, actually feeds real asset pricing into DeFi. And I think that's really, scratching the surface again. We're going to start seeing a lot of products being built on real world assets. Every day I hear a new, RWA protocol. I think it's going to be exciting. And like most of us here, I think the more the merrier. We can start interacting with, one permission protocol with another, and I think that's just going to create a very good and strong domino effect. And as builders, again, I feel like we should start bracing ourselves together and stop self-wrecking, because I think there's too much going on, and people outside the industry are just looking at us like idiots, pardon my language, but literally thinking that we're not being taken very seriously. So I think we need to start bracing together, finding solutions together. The market is big enough. We're all going to make it at the end of the day. So there's always going to be a bull market.
Thank you.
It has been a challenging year for many DeFi projects with the market turmoils, the regulations, and fallouts of banking relationship, etc. So there's plenty of reason to be pessimistic for DeFi founder. But I do believe that pessimism helps you to be correct, while optimism helps you to be successful. So keep optimistic and carry on.
I would say pay more attention to the security of the code, because and if could prepare some solution to assume the hike happen. Yeah, because if the hike happen, that would maybe destroy all your work of the project. Because DeFi is the black forest. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, thanks everyone for the super insightful sharing. And like Rachel said, let's keep optimistic and keep building. And I hope everyone could enjoy this panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your valuable contribution to the discussion. Then we had the honor of hearing from Dovey Wan. She is the founder of Preemptive Ventures, also the early investor of Stockwell and Optimism, and advisor of GMX. She will give us a fascinating keynote speech on the rise of anons. 我们欢迎 Dovey Wan 给我们带来主题演讲《匿名的崛起》。
Hey guys, just want to test the Mac. Just want to taste the voice, and I think I can just because I think Chinese is better for most of us here, just based on my quick observation. Can I just do a quick governance vote here? 中文是母语的，可不可以举一下手？ Okay, I think we have an easy 51% attack. So unfortunately, I'm gonna do the presentation all in Chinese. Yeah. OK， 那我还是用中文说会好一点，因为感觉大家应该都还是中文的中国的朋友比较多。So yeah, so 我要说这个事情是 the rise of the anom， 就是匿名开发者和匿名创始人的崛起。就其实我们 ，oops， 对，就说这个是我今天要讲的东西啊，就是说。其实我们大家在做那个创业者的时候，其实我们大部分的时候其实，在中本聪出现之前，我们其实都是用自己的脸去做创业。Like we basically have our face out there, right？所以说我今天想讲的是说，从中本聪开始之后，然后的话，特别是在2020年之后，就是在我们就在2020年的 DeFi Summers 之后，就我们看到了一个很有趣的现象，就是说这一个匿名军团的崛起，就是说 the rise of the anoms。这个是我一个快速的自我介绍。然后我2014年开始的话，就是在行业里面做很 active 的 angel investment。然后2018年的时候的话，和我的 co-founder who's already retired， 就是做了 Primitive Ventures， 然后 Primitive Ventures 的话是 fully owned by us，and we don't have 我们从来没有融资，也没有外部的 LP，然后基本上就是 grow our balance sheet to a pretty significant, sizable, like amount, like just till now， 就我们现在的balance sheet 也比较大。然后的话呢，基本上如果你们去看 top 100的 crypto projects 里面也有不少我们投资，譬如说像最早的 Zcash， 像 Definity、Cosmos、Theta，blah blah blah。然后的话，像 DeFi infrastructure， 我们在 DeFi 成为 DeFi 之前，我们就在投资 DeFi， 譬如说像 Kyber，像0x， 然后的话还有现在大家可能听的比较多的 GMX， 然后的话这个也是我今天要讲的一个很有趣的一个 case study。然后的话，在 Layer 2的 infrastructure， 就我们也有比较早的布局，像 Starware 是我2018年的投资，然后像 Optimism 什么也都是 like pretty early stage， 然后 Stellar 就也是2017年的投资，还有 Synapse Economy、Multichain， like those are like investment from few years back before Layer 2 become a thing。然后 data infrastructure 的话，就是我们投像 Masari、Nansen、and like a bunch of them。然后我自己的话其实是广州人，然后我是在中山大学读的本科，然后去 Carnegie Mellon 读了那个 Information System 的 Master。这个是我们大概的一个 selected 的一个 portfolio list。然后我刚刚也就是说了不少对，然后还有就是说，其实我们从2020年之后开始的话we have a new focus on Super DApp。然后 Super DApp 的话，其实 GMX 从某种意义上的话，它也其实是个 Super DApp， 它是一个 DeFi Super DApp。然后的话，就我们从去年大概2021年开始的话，有在 systematic 去看 consumer facing 的 Super DApp。然后 say for instance 的话，去年有一个我觉得还不错的投资，现在也跑得比较好，像 Hook Protocol。然后的话，就是它现在是在东南亚那边，然后还有 Latin America 一个用的非常多的一个 Web3 的面向消费级别的一个大体量的 Super DApp。然后的话，大家如果是有空的话，可以去搜搜他们的信息，对。然后的话，这个是我们传统的创业道路，就是一个 traditional 的一个 founding path。就是说 traditional 的一个 founding path 的话，就咱们大家如果是现场有很多创业者的话，其实你会发现你创业的启动的方式都是靠你自己的社会资源，就 social currency accounting， 对吧？你靠你社会资源，就是说这个非常取决于你是谁，你是在哪里长大的，你的爸妈是谁，你的初中、高中、大学同学是谁，对吧？你的工作的朋友是有哪些人？然后的话，当然就也不排除，就我们说有很多非常厉害的 founder like they're like hustler， right？ 所以他们可以 hustle all the way out。然后的话，但是其实我们大部分的这个创业的话，其实是很难跳出你的这个原生的社交圈的，就不管你从融资、招人，然后产品的想法，对吧？所以说的话，其实我们创业的话，其实是撬动自己3个社会资源的杠杆。你要去融资，你要去招人，然后你要去做产品和服务的分发，然后这三个我们说 levers， 就这3个 levers 的话，其实是你们可以撬动，就是每个创业者作为一个非匿名创业者需要去撬动的这3个杠杆。然后这3个杠杆的话，其实就是你们的其实是我们每一个人的这个 social currency。然后的话，传统意义上这个 social currency 它都是permission based 的。就如果你要去融资，你要和 VC pitch， 然后 VC pitch 的话是要许可制的 ，VC 要认可你这个人，对吧？然后你要去招人，你要招的员工也要认可你的团队和认可你的想法，就说这些所有的一切都是 permission based 的，而且的话是非常占用你的社交资源和你的 social currency。所以说的话，其实我们经常会说人在江湖身不由己，是因为你一旦进了创业的这个圈子，其实你会有非常多的某种意义上的人情的债务，对吧？因为你要去做各种各样的事情，其实是需要找不同的许可制、准入制的这样的一个 channel， 然后的话，就你要去做各种各样的 hustling。然后，但是其实，在 Nakamoto， 就是在 Satoshi Nakamoto 出现了之后的话，其实 这所有的事情都有一个非常大的变化。就是说 Satoshi Nakamoto 他从来没有做过 fundraise， 那他是怎么样做 fundraising 呢？他 fundraising 是因为他有一个非常巧妙的一个博弈的设计，就是 Nakamoto Consensus。然后的话，他的 fundraising， 所以说我在 fundraising 在融资这里我是打了一个引号的。它的 fundraising 其实是用的是博弈的设计，然后的话其实是让矿工们去通过算力的竞争，然后的话去通过起始的这样的一个挖矿的投资，然后完成了某种意义上的这个 fundraising， 但是它并没有去做公开的 fundraising， 它也不需要去跟 VC pitch， 对吧？然后它的 hiring 的话，它的招聘完全是从论坛上面完成的，然后这个就说这个我 hiring 我也是打了一个那个双引号，是 quote and quote hiring， 他也没有说真正的去招人把它放到自己的这个 payroll 里面来，对吧？然后他是发布了白皮书之后的话，就有非常多感兴趣这个事情是 genuinely interest 这个事情的人，然后的话志同道合的人，然后 they basically come together and then work on Bitcoin together。所以说的话，他从来没有刷脸招人，然后他的 distribution channel 他也是没有去做刷脸的分发，他也不需要去把它 list 在什么应用商店上面，对吧？但他是利用了这个挖矿和这个货币本身的这样的一个 network effect。就 currency 的话，就货币的网络效应体现在两个地方。第一个的话，它其实是个价值共识，越来越多人相信它，就会有越来越多人相信它。它其实是有一个非常有趣的一个价值共识的飞轮效应。然后的话，还有一个就是我们说的这个 transaction， 就是这个 transaction network effect， 就是说因为货币的三大属性的话，它是作为一个价值存储 store value，medium 就是 medium of exchange， 就是说它是一个价值中介，还有一个 unit of account， 就是一个价值锚定。当一个货币它有了一定的价值共识，它进一步成为一个 medium of exchange 的时候，就是成为一个交换媒介的时候，越来越多人用，那么下一个过来用的人就会越来越好用。所以说的话，它因为 currency 这两个network effect， 所以说的话，它让这个东西变得分发，就 distribution 这个事情变得几乎没有成本，对吧？价值的共识就是我们越来越多人相信它，新一个人相信它的可能性新一个看到这个东西的人相信这个事情的概率就会变得更加的高。然后的话 median of 的这个 transaction network effect， 这个 median of exchange 它也是一样的，因为它是一个 payment network。所以说的话 Nakamoto Way 就是一个完全颠覆了传统创业道路的一个这样的一个方式。它不需要刷脸融资，他也不需要去在自己朋友圈招人，或者是朋友介绍招人，然后就他也不用去做任何的，产品的分发，对吧？就他也不用说要去看 App Store 的脸色，要去交苹果的税。然后其实我就觉得这个事情跟比特币的出现本身的这个时间点其实也很有关系。然后其实我们看到，就是 Bitcoin 现在已经超过 like one decade。然后其实我们其实是面临一个非常大的一个竞争，就是说科技巨头和这个主权巨头的竞争。就其实我们看到很多的科技巨头，它已经富可敌国了。如果你们把苹果按照它的这个每年的收入，还有每年的这个就是如果你把苹果、阿里像腾讯，他们每年的收入把它当做一个国家 GDP 的话，他们都是排在可能全球前20或者甚至前10这样的一个国家 GDP 的这样的一个体量。所以说的话，他们其实当科技巨头变成了一种就说数字化的主权和强权的时候，那么的话，就我们物理强权，就是我们传统意义上的这样的一个主权强权，就是肯定会出来，就是说我要把你干掉，对吧？所以说的话，就是这个是我们看到，不管是在中国、美国，都一直在，就是在应该是从2018年开始就在持续出现的一个事情。美国基本上美国两会，他们永远都会在那个掐架，但他们唯一不会掐架的事情就是说我们要。就可能就是他们唯一不会掐架，就是说 Facebook is evil, Google is evil， 对吧？就这个是他们就说政客们可以快速达成的一个这样的一个共识。然后的话，就在我们就是在我们中国这边，其实我们也可以看到，就是不管是阿里、蚂蚁、滴滴， 各种各样的事情，其实都是政治强权和科技强权一个这样的一个非常大的一个 clash。然后的话呢，这个就是会，就说这个是我们现在看到的一个现象。但是对于新的创业者来说的话，其实这个是一个某种意义上的话，非常大的一个危机。就是说，你一旦任何事情做得足够大了之后，那么的话，如果你是一个 known founder， 如果你把你自己的脸放在外面，如果别人可以迅速的知道你是谁，你的家人是谁，那么的话，就你会有永远一个无下限的风险，对吧？其实我们经常说。就说，其实我们经常说，我们做的事情，不管是我们自己做的决策，还是你作为一个 founder 做的各种各样的战略的判断，你需要是 unlimited downside， 然后就说，就你需要的是 unlimited upside and limited downside， 就是说，就你需要做的决策是一个尽量有更高无限的上行的收益，但是你下行的风险你要很有限。但是其实现在这个强权 versus 这个就强主权 versus 科技强权的问题，就是说任何一个把事情做大的 founder， 他们都会面临下行风险无限大。就是说不管你在美国、在中国、在任何的地方，就只要你是一个把你自己的脸放在外面的。做的足够大的生意人或者是 founder， 就你都会有这样的风险。所以说的话，其实我们看到了这一个是一个就是一个对于新的创业者，不管是创业者或者说任何想要做巨大创新的人来说的一个非常大的下行的风险。就如果你是个科学家，如果就我们想象，如果说你有了一个新的类似核武级别或者是 nuclear weapon 级别新的发现，譬如说或者是说生物武器，或者说你就是你这个科学家，你做个事情很有可能成为下一个巨大体量的生物武器，那么的话你自己的人身危险是会受到就是会随时会受到危害的，就是如果别人知道就你是谁的话。所以说话就在一个没有个人隐私和这个强主权崛起的时候，就因为我们知道经济周期下行的时候必然会有强主权，就这个其实基本上是历史的规律，对吧？其实我们可以看纳粹的崛起，还有各种各样，就是说强权的崛起的时候，基本上就都是经济下行周期的时候。对，因为经济下行周期的时候的话，就是整一个社会需要高度的一个，就它需要，因为人。所有普通老百姓本身的话，其实他是需要一个强权政府，然后去给他们某种意义上的安全感。然后所以说的话，这个是我们现在看到了一个对任何想要做巨大创新的人来说一个非常大的风险。然后其实我们在2020年之后的话，就看到了。因为 COVID 其实它加速了很多事情的变革，然后它也改变了很多人的生命的轨迹，对吧？然后的话，而且 COVID 本身之后，就我们也看到了，政府的力量变得变得更加的强大，然后政府本身他们的数据的掌控能力，然后他们的各种各样的 surveillance， 然后的话基本开始深入到生活的方方面面，对吧？譬如说咱们在中国这边有健康卡这个事情，健康码这个事情的话，它就是说它可以完全被利用成良民卡，对吧？那其实政府可以，就不管是政府，就各种中心化组织，就它可以很快的让你社会性死亡或者是经济性死亡，就它需要做的，它只是去点一下一个数据库上的一个按钮。所以的话，其实我们在这样的社会里面的话，其实是很大程度上是没有自由的。然后，如果你是一个 founder 的话，那你面对的还有很多其他我刚刚说的下行的风险。所以说的话，在 COVID 之后的话，其实我们看到了这个 the rise of the anonymous， 就是说 the rise of the 就是说匿名创业者的崛起。然后匿名创业者它其实是中本聪 2.0 的这样的一个升级。就我个人觉得，就是说可能在2018年就是在2008年的时候的话，只有中本聪一个 anonymous founders。虽然说在2014年的那个 cycle 的时候，那个是我第一个 cycle， 在2014年的时候的话，也有一些零星的一些匿名的创业者，譬如说 Bitcoin 的 founder 和最早的 Dash 的 founder， 他们都是匿名的方式出现的。然后的话，但是在2020年之后的话，其实我们看到了大量的匿名的创业者的这样的一个 emergence， 就是 他们。而且对于很多人来说，我现在都不知道他们是谁，是男生、女生、哪里人，其实我现在就都不知道。有的人的话，可能跟我打过电话，那我可能可以通过他的口音大概判断他是什么地方的人，或者说可能通过跟他们的交流，他们经常会出现在某个时区，这样来判断他们可能是什么地方人。但是我很多人现在都我很多的这些被投企业的 founder， 我现在从来都没有见过。然后的话，对于他们来说的话，他们也不需要去找 VC 融资，他们是做 community raise， 就是他们说，就他们的 raise 的方式是这个 community raise， 然后他们也不会做 open hiring， 他们可能 hire from the community， 然后的话，他们 distribution 的话，它也是通过我们说的 fair launch 或者是 retroactive airdrop 来完成这个 distribution。然后这个上面就是我们支持过、投资过的，还有从最早开始孵化的一些匿名创业者的项目，像 GMX、Lookstream、Synapse、Rage 还有 Pika。然后的话，他们都是平均的团队的大小，特别是开发者的那个数量都是在3个以下。然后，但是大家可以看看，就是说，他们完成了一个什么样的一个成就。譬如说 GMX 的话，他们只有2个开发者，然后他们从来没有融过资，然后的话，他们现在已经完成了链上的交易量的话是超过了120个 billion， 然后的话 total value log 的话是6个亿美金，然后是占了 Arbitrum 的1半的 TVL， 然后的话它的整个协议的收入是接近2亿美金，然后这个是2个开发者完成的事情，所以大家可以想想这个生产力的量级和其他的项目相比就是多么的厉害。然后的话，他们现在的这个用户数的话，现在也是有接近30万的用户数。然后的话，另外一个很好的一个 example 的话就是 Lookstream。然后 Lookstream 的话是那个 OpenSea 的一个非常大的一个 competitor。然后的话，它也是我们当时觉得，因为 OpenSea 是一个完全的，就是说是一个高举高打的项目，然后的话融了很多钱，而且平台赚的钱还从来不来，而且平台赚的钱从来都不分给用户，然后所以说我们当时就和几个朋友觉得说这个事情非常不 make sense， 所以说后来我们就认识了一个很好的匿名团队，然后我们让这个匿名团队做了这个就是做了 Lookstream 这个项目，然后的话他们融资金额也非常少，只有2.8个 million 的美金，就是如果你要跟其他的这个NFT 平台就相比的话，可能1/10、1/50可能就都不到。然后他们也是5个开发者完成了超过300亿美金的这样的一个 volume， 然后 total user 的话现在也是超过15万的用户。然后基本上这些都是在行业里面，就说我是觉得是排得上非常前的项目，而且都是匿名开发者做的，就我现在都不知道他们是谁。然后这个还有一些其他的我是觉得非常好的项目，其实都是匿名的开发者，譬如说 John Style、DeFi Llama、Dopex， 然后 JPEG， 这些都是就是你都不知道他们从哪里冒出来，然后但是他们就是 Twitter 上的一个 PFP， 他们就是 Twitter 上的一个头像，然后但是他们做的事情远远可以在我们行业里面留下一个非常好的一个 history。然后的话，我是觉得 the future of 那个 in economy 就是这个 anum 加上 economy 这个事情，就不仅仅是存在于创业者。然后的话，其实 basically all the online sectors， 然后它都可能会有这个 anum 的这样的一个就说这样一个很重要的地位。譬如说，我们这一次 Luna 一个很大的3个工程，就是说干翻 Luna 很大的3个这个。就说个人调查员吧，就是这种 personal investigator， 他们都是 Twitter 上面完全匿名的账号，就是我下面3个列的。然后的话，而且很多投资人现在也越来越多的是一个匿名的投资人，譬如说我也有我的匿名账号，就是在 Twitter 上面，然后我也会去参与一些其他的项目，就用我的匿名的账号，就他们也不知道那个账号其实是我。然后的话，而且就像我最早说，就说未来的话，我是觉得还会出现匿名的科学家，然后现在 decentralized science 其实就也是一个非常值得关注的一个方向。 就是如果一旦你有了就是可以改变人类文明的科学发现的话，你要保证自己安全的方式，那就是要保持绝对的匿名。然后的话，这个是我们觉得未来一个非常有趣的一个趋势。然后的话，所以说我也和我几个老炮朋友，就是说，当比特币真正到了100万美金一个的时候，就我们要做一个中本聪，就是 Nakamoto Prize， 就是因为我们不是有诺贝尔奖嘛，就我们也要做一个中本聪奖。我们这个 Nakamoto Prize 的话，其实就会去奖励这些匿名的创始人、匿名的开发者，还有匿名的个人的侦探调查，还有说真正为社会做出一些公正正义判断的一些 journalist。 然后的话，这个是我们对这个10年一个大的方向的一个判断。因为就这个10年的话，肯定是个人主权，我们说 self sovereignty， 个人主权、科技主权还有政治强权一个不可能三角的一个这样的一个10年。所以说的话，我是觉得就是说每个人都是向往自由的。所以说的话，就是说匿名应该是匿名的权利，应该是自由的一个前提。好，谢谢大家，这个就是我今天的 keynote。
谢谢 Dovi 的精彩分享。Our next speaker is Mark Bentley Richardson, project lead at Banco. Dr. Richardson will talk about the changing landscape of on-chain liquidity. Let's welcome.
Good morning, Hong Kong. My name is Mark Richardson. I'm the project lead at Bancor. We were actually the original inventors of AMM technology. And when that technology was invented, it was designed to serve one purpose, and that was to help get the cryptocurrency economy underneath it. It was never supposed to be necessarily a financially performant vehicle, and it certainly wasn't supposed to take liquidity from users or community members inside cryptocurrency. In general, the liquidity that was provided back then was almost exclusively provided by projects themselves, and it was not necessarily with the intent of removing that liquidity at some point in the future. Those tokens were supposed to stay there, keep the tokens liquid, and help to support the cryptocurrency economy over long periods of time. We've come a long way since then, and I would say that the on-chain distribution of liquidity has changed quite a lot. And we've kind of moved from these early stages of what it might look like to have our own version of a decentralized finance system, from being something that is protocol or project-oriented to being something that is end-user-oriented. And so what I'm going to discuss with you today is this transition from constant function market making from its earliest beginnings, using constant product, constant function market makers as a specific example, through to concentrated liquidity systems such as Uniswap v3, and then to our newest innovation, which we are calling asymmetric liquidity. So consider this price chart. This is actually from a legitimate and popular cryptocurrency pair, and I'll reveal it to you in a moment. But think about how you might trade this, okay? If you are providing liquidity to something, be aware that you are actually actively engaged in a very specific trading strategy. And if you are providing it to something like a constant product market maker, you are going to buy and sell at every single price. Okay, and that means that you are participating in what's called a short gamma strategy or a mean reversion strategy. And what you're hoping for is that at the end of your liquidity provision, that the price is basically the same as where it left off at. And whatever the delta that you accumulate on your portfolio at the end of that process is what has accumulated due to fees. With a concentrated liquidity position, instead of buying and selling at every available price point, you instead predetermine exactly which price points you would like to buy and sell at. Now, this has the advantage of concentrating the amount of liquidity that you have over a very narrow price range, and that means that you can process much larger volumes, and that means that your fee accrual can be accelerated. Of course, leverage never comes for free. If you are mistaken in where the market is likely to take the price, you will pay for it. And I will show you that in just a moment. Now, the paradigm that I'm going to be introducing you to today is what we call asymmetric liquidity. And this is essentially that you don't have to buy and sell at all prices, but you can distinguish between prices that you would rather buy at and rather sell at. And of course, if you've been in centralized finance for a long period of time, the obviousness of this design might cause you to roll your eyes. But in DeFi, we haven't actually had this technology yet. You have always, when you're providing liquidity, been forced to buy and sell at every price within a certain range. You have never been able to delineate your buying and selling from each other. And this is what our new product, which we call Carbon, is hoping to achieve. So first, let's run through some of these simulations. The price chart that you have been looking at has been the ETH BTC price pair, and it's been scraped from the last year, so about April 2022 up to April 2023. We're starting with a portfolio evaluation of 100 ETH, just to choose a round number, and we're using a day time frame. Now, I'm always using OHLC price data for this. So for this simulation, I've split up the open, high, low, and close time brackets into 6-hour intervals. And we're essentially going to be arbitraging each one of those prices in order to try and get an idea for how each one of these different protocols performs. For our Uniswap v3 or concentrated liquidity range, the price that you saw before is going to be between 12.99 and 15.58 ETH per BTC. And and be reminded that you are going to be buying and selling at every single price in between there, right? If there is an arbitrage opportunity available versus your liquidity, assume that someone is going to take it. For Carbon, we're going to be delineating the buying and selling according to this rubric. So we're going to only be buying Bitcoin between 12 and 13 ETH, and we're always going to be selling our Bitcoin between 13.77 and 15.15. So as opposed to the concentrated liquidity paradigm, instead of buying and selling at all available prices, we're exclusively going to be buying Bitcoin here, and we're exclusively going to be selling it here. And this is the experiment. We're going to see how this performs versus the status quo. I have a software package that I'm willing to make available. I should be open sourcing at any time. But if anyone at the conference wants to see how these things are performed, please come and find me after the talk, and I'll happily share the Python package with you, and we can even perform some experiments on my laptop after the talk. So for constant product, this is generally how I would prefer that you think about a constant product market maker. The top chart here, the top left, this is just the price of Bitcoin versus ETH. And every time it moves, what we are doing is simulating an arbitrage opportunity, either between another DEX or another SEX. And we're looking at how that affects the portfolio balance, but we're also measuring the fees that we're going to be getting from the system. I didn't disclose it, but I think that we're using, about 30 basis points or 0.3% on the fee value. Now, this chart here on the bottom left, this is essentially treating an AMM as an order book. And what we're doing is to measure how much liquidity depth there is at every price point. And what you'll notice is that as it jitters back and forth, the liquidity reestablishes itself. And so for a constant product market maker, the rule is that it always holds 50% of its value in cash, which in this case is ETH, and 50% of its value in Bitcoin. And it's that constant rebalancing that causes the fees to accumulate here. But it's also what causes its portfolio to diverge from the HODL value. So in the top right, you can see as the time progresses, we are slowly accumulating value. And I've deliberately chosen this example because all three protocols will end up in profit. But what I want you to pay attention to is the magnitude here. So we're simulating over a year of time. I think this is about 1 year and 18 hours. And our performance on Uniswap v2 looks to be approaching about 1%. Now, every time the price moves quite dramatically, you'll see that the portfolio value takes a hit. But in general, there is a very slow but gradual trend to higher portfolio valuations. As long as you're choosing a pair that has pretty good volatility versus each other, but doesn't trend exclusively in one direction, that will generally tend to be true. Now, that's not a common way of visualizing a constant function market maker. In general, we prefer to visualize them using what we call bonding curves. And these bonding curves in the bottom of the panel are the hyperbolas that describe something like a Uniswap v2 market maker. It's exactly the same idea, though. It's just that rather than considering order book depth, we're now looking at token balances specifically. So you can see as the price is moving around, the token balances in both ETH and BTC are changing as the market is buying and selling them from our position. This is the summary after 1 year of simulation. The blue line up here is what the portfolio valuation is doing overall, and the yellow or gold line immediately underneath it is what your HODL position would have been. The HODL position is just what would my total value be if I decided not to provide liquidity with these tokens. And so the protocol is winning only if that blue line is above the yellow line. And you can see for Uniswap v2, not so bad, okay? It's nothing to write home about, but at least it's winning and not losing. Let's have a look at concentrated liquidity. Now, concentrated liquidity is, in a way, leverage. It borrows from the same mechanics as constant product, except instead of having an infinite liquidity distribution across every possible price range, we're now concentrating our liquidity just between the prices that we have set up from the beginning. Now you can see that there is a small gap here between the green and the red. And that gap is the effective bid-ask spread of Uniswap v3 resulting from the trading fee that's being applied there. Now have a look what happens when the price is moving out of that range. You can see how it's affecting our performance of the protocol overall, and we're now getting down to something like a negative 15% drawdown, okay? Now this is generally when people start to panic. We call this impermanent loss, okay? And it's impermanent because as long as the price comes back into where we wanted it to trade, our portfolio will recover. But that's still a scary capitulation, okay? A negative 15% drawdown is something that most traders would like to avoid, but the rewards are also significant. So remember, on our unconcentrated system, on the normal constant product system, we were approaching something like 1% over a full year, whereas here, we're not even through 2022 yet, and we're already past 5%. So that leverage paradigm is exactly how leverage works in all financial situations. Yes, your risks are greater if you are wrong, if you miss your call, but as long as your strategy is correct in the long run, then you will actually earn more revenue. And so you can see now we're well over 10x what Uniswap v2 was performing, and this is why Uniswap v3 is so interesting, right? It is not a bad product at all. There are a lot of very, very good reasons to use it, but it is exclusively catering to that short gamma strategy. There are other ways to trade these markets where you don't necessarily want to take the position that two tokens trading against each other are going to not diverge in relative value over that time period. Now we can also visualize the concentrated liquidity paradigm using its bonding curves. These are basically the same concept as before, except instead of using a hyperbola that extends out to infinity and is asymptotic at both axes, you now have a system that cuts the y and x axes at some value. One of the things that I want you to pay attention to on this animation is how these green and red bars are responding when the price is moving back through that liquidity range. I'm referring to this as a symmetric liquidity system because when I replot the base asset versus the quote asset on a different plot, you can see that they always respond together in unison. So when this part of the chart is growing and shrinking, you can see that the other chart is growing and shrinking at exactly the same rate in lockstep. And that's because they're two different perspectives on the same token balances. But this is symmetric liquidity, okay? If I'm buying some asset with another asset, I'm always putting that new asset that I've acquired immediately behind the price. You can see that approaching, you can see the point that I'm making actually on the price chart in the top left. If that red liquidity is disappearing and I'm accumulating that green liquidity underneath it, it's always immediately behind wherever the price has currently come to rest. Okay, you don't get to choose where you want to buy and sell. So Uniswap v3, not a terrible protocol, right? We can see over the course of this simulation that it actually is quite profitable. So we started out with a portfolio valuation of around 100 ETH, and at the end of 1 year, according to that concentration portfolio, we've ended up about, that looks to be about 15 or 14% higher. So your HODL position would have appreciated as well. That looks about like maybe a 5 or 10% increase. But providing liquidity on Uniswap v3 within this range, you would have done even better, okay? Now, we always have the benefit of hindsight, right? We have a type of clairvoyance when we are backtesting the market rather than trying to commit to a strategy without knowing what future price action will be. But you can easily do something like a Monte Carlo simulation with these analyses and inform a sort of generic trading strategy over a large basket of assets that would actually help you to make these kinds of decisions. And that is why I've created the analysis suite that I have. So let's talk about asymmetric liquidity. So this is our new invention. It is from Bangkok, and Carbon, by the way, is just an anagram of Bangkok. Carbon is the new flagship offering, and we're hoping that this is going to be our new, a new way to buttress DeFi trading in a way where traders can now take a positional view on which way that markets are likely to be moving. So what makes Carbon special is that you can see that as the price is moving through its cash, the risk liquidity does not adjust necessarily. We are only swapping our cash for the risk asset when the user, or within the range that the user has decided. And that risk liquidity, it is always located within the other band. And this means that Carbon can hold on to its assets until such a time that it makes sense to trade them. And you can see that it has exactly the same sorts of drawdowns that we've seen in the other protocols, but it's a lot less violent, okay? So when Uniswap v3 was experiencing this particular range, we saw drawdowns down to something like negative 15%, whereas with this asymmetric portfolio, the drawdown was only down to negative 4%. And we didn't have to wait so long in order for the portfolio value overall to recover versus a total position. So this asymmetric paradigm, it is very, very powerful. The asymmetry can also be, I think, better understood by having a look at the bonding curves. So unlike Uniswap v3 and Uniswap v2, where we had specific token balances represented on both the y and x coordinates of this bonding curve, on Carbon, each of these bonding curves is only representing a single token balance. There is no continuity or there is no correlation between the token balance of one of these assets and the other. They do not quote a price versus each other. They have their own separate bonding curves that reports their own price based on their own balances. There is no reason why if you have a lot of USDC, for example, that necessarily means that your Bitcoin should be being sold at a premium, okay? And this is the assumption that other constant function market makers make. In our case, we say you have absolute freedom of choice. Your token balances can be whatever you want them to be, and the price of those tokens can also be whatever you want it to be. The protocol prescribes nothing. There is no rebalancing, and the choice of how to trade is entirely up to the end user. So you can see already, again, we're not quite all the way through the year, and Carbon is already up to about a 15% gain over the HODL strategy, which is very impressive. So what about if we let it go out for the entire year? You can see, again, the gold line here is the HODL value, which, again, appreciated by about something like 10%. But you can see the asymmetric liquidity paradigm has appreciated far more than that. And in fact, if we compare the outputs to all three of these simulations against each other, we can see that the constant product, concentrated liquidity, and asymmetric liquidity paradigms actually have a very distinctly different profile. And remember, I'm using basically a heads-up comparison. I'm using the same concentration range that Uniswap v3 had. All I've done is split the buying and the selling up into different orders. And it's almost a 4x increase in efficiency, right? I do think that this is a very powerful paradigm, and I think that traders who are frustrated with being forced to take a short gamma position or are bored of the mean reversion portfolio will find a lot of value in this. And if you are trading markets, right, if you are in that position of trying to buy something at a price that you think is favorable and then trying to identify prices where you might be able to sell it for a small profit, this system automates that for you, okay? So if you are like me and have had trouble before managing your emotions when markets are moving in a certain direction, right? If you don't have the discipline to commit to a strategy ahead of time, Carbon will help you do that, okay? This is something that we are very much pushing towards sophisticated individuals. So people who have been in the markets for a long time, who understand how to trade, who don't necessarily subscribe to the hubris of cryptocurrency, but understand that market volatility represents a profound opportunity. Carbon is just the algorithmic realization of that, and I think the results speak for themselves. You might think that I have cherry-picked an example where Carbon has outperformed Uniswap v3 by some small amount or something like that. I promise you the reverse is true. There are so many token pairs where Carbon outperforms Uniswap v3 and other self-rebalancing portfolios by several orders of magnitude that it actually took me a little while to come to rest on something that I think, in the context of a presentation, would actually be seen as believable. Okay? If you want to see some of those results, come and find me. I'm sitting down here in the front row, and we can run some experiments together. I promise you, this is something special. The product is called Carbon. It falls under the umbrella of Bancor, and we think it's the next iteration in on-chain liquidity following the Uniswap's implementation of concentrated liquidity. If you want to read more about this, we have already a very large number of simulation resources available at simulator.carbondefi.xyz. You can see our white paper and light paper at carbondefi.xyz. If you would like to talk to me, you can contact me at my email, either by Twitter or my Telegram is preferable. Or like I said, come and find me at the conference. I have a couple of appointments, but I'm always happy to make room. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope that this has been interesting for you. And thank you for welcoming me to Hong Kong. It's been a terrific experience so far.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for your informative presentation. Next up, we have Du Jun, CEO and Executive Director of Nuhuo Tech and co-founder of ABCD Capital. He will present on hypercycle, crypto market outlook, and investment opportunities. 下面我们有请杜军先生，他是星火科技的 CEO 兼执行董事，也是 ABCD Capital 的联合创始人。欢迎杜军先生给我们带来演讲《超级周期加密市场的展望与投资机会》。
非常感谢这个组委会的邀请，然后能够到这个地方，能够给这个在场的朋友们有一个简单的一个分享。从2012年买第一枚比特币到今天，真差不多11年时间。那2013年去做火币，那到今天也正好10年。对，那在这个过程中，经常会有朋友问我。说你们第一，你创业或者你买比特币，你为什么去买比特币？或你为什么会去做火币网？或你今天还想做什么样的创业？今天你做投资又会去投一些什么样的项目？那今天那我会花10到20分钟时间来去给大家分享一下我们在接下来看的这个几个周期里面，我们会有一个简单的复盘，以及在接下来这个周期里面，我们会以一些什么样的投资方向？怎么用？对。那这张图其实是可以看一下，这个是我觉得是08年到今天为止的整个4个周期。那08年第一个4个周期，我们如果以减半为周期来看的话，那其实正好也符合这个规律。 那每一个周期里面，我们到底能做一些什么的事情？第一个周期很简单，08年到12年这个周期里面，你发现你只能做2个事情。第一，发明比特币，但这个事情呢，只有中本聪做到了。第二个事情，你能做的事情就是买币，就是囤币就好了。你做不了其他事情，你没有什么矿机机会、交易所机会等等所有的机会都没有。在这个时间段内，你并且买比特币的时候，投资比特币的时候，其实也是凭运气或者概率。很多人问我说：“你为什么12年买比特币？那时候大概是$15到$20一个。”但是其实我也不明白，我也没有像今天一样的，比如说神乎其神的说我已经看到了比特币的未来，并不是，是因为有朋友推荐，我们花几万美金就买了点。对，所以这个时候你能够的创业机会或投资机会少之又少，你能做的事情就是发明比特币，但你做不到，中本聪做到了。第二个，去买币就好了。第二个周期，12年到16年，12年到16年。这个周期里面能做的事情是什么？对，那我们可以看到有3个事情。第一个事情就是你去交易比特币，去提供交易所。所以这个时候诞生了像 Coinbase、火币、OK 这样的交易所，这样的公司都是所谓的独角兽公司。你做其他事情很难做到这样的体量，在这个周期里面啊。第二个事情就是第一个是交易比特币，第二个是挖矿，去从事挖矿。所以呢，能做的事情就是去做比特大陆、江南云智这样的公司。对，所以呢，能做的事情就是一个是交易比特币，一个是生产比特币。第三个事情呢，就是所谓的当时要去改进。真正的就是要去提倡的就区块链2.0，因为我们会把比特币这种就是没有去做智能合约的一个简单的一个第一代叫区块链1.0，那所有的要去做的是区块链2.0，来去加上一个智能合约，所以去做了以太坊。对，那当然其实上一个周期里面还做了很多事情啊，有一些比如能做的创业机会里面，除了比特币之外，还有一些小的机会，比如说你去 fork 一个比特币。所以有了莱特币啊、点点币这样的一些机会，但第二个周期里面，你会发现其实就交易比特币、生产比特币，这2个都是独角兽企业的。第3个就是你去做了以太坊这样的事情。那第3个周期里面，就16年到2020年里面能做什么的事情？这里面很多人会思考，我们其实就会发现我们今天从结果上来看的话，我们发现这里面有17年，比如有 Binance， 有2020年左右的 DeFi Summer。那这里面怎么来的？它为什么会有这样的一些现象？就是呢，你如果从投资、从复盘的角度来讲，这里面能够有什么样的一些主要矛盾和机会？也是一样，我们可以看到，那今天可以看到上面有交易平台、有 DeFi 有这样的东西。那今天来去看是很简单的。在当时来讲，它为什么会有这样的现象现象，并且火币啊，包括 OK 啊，还有 Coinbase 都已经做了很久了。那这边为什么还有交易平台机会？本质上的逻辑是来自于 ICO 的兴起、以太坊的崛起、ICO 的兴起，导致了这里面的资产大爆炸。当资产大爆炸之后，你这里面没有人去解决这里面资产大爆炸所带来的这里面的这个冲突，就是原来这些交易所，火币也好 ，OK 也好，这些交易所它没有及时的去上这些资产，他们的效率相对比较偏低。那这里面它也当然有很多逻辑和理由，因为这些交易所相对比较老牌，所以它会要从新资产的你要保护交易者的这种投资者的这种逻辑上来讲，这是讲得通的。因为你新的资产，我无法判断你到底这个资产有没有价值。因为原来这些在17年4月份之前，火币也好 ，OK 也好，这些交易所只有比特币和莱特币，甚至都没有以太坊。到了17年4月份的时候才有以太坊来去交易。所以当这些新的资产起来之后，没有交易所来去为了处理，所以就诞生了像一些新的交易所，当时的什么巨币、云币以及 Binance。Binance 在接下来2个 Q 以内上线了340个资产，所以说这是它成功的最早期成功的最主要的一个原因。因为资产大爆炸，没有人能去对这些资产来去上线，它有这个上线的需求。 这就跟一个城市里面或者一个国家一样，它有大量的创业公司，有大量的这个经济发展，但它没有自己的这个上交所、深交所，它这一资产怎么办？你只要开一个，它肯定火。就跟其他有些国家的交易所它不火也是一样的，比如新加坡交易所，因为它自己国家没有大量的企业，没有大量的地方来去在它去上线、上市。所以这第一类就是交易平台是大量的创业机会，所以说当时的 BitMax 啊、当时包括Coinbase 也是一样的 ，Binance 还有各种各样的这个交易所，包括今天我们看到的 KuCoin、Bybit 等等这样的，都是借着这一波，因为有大量的资产，而原来的传统老牌交易所上线资产的交易速度比较慢。第二个就是所谓的这个 DeFi Summer， 那为什么会产生 DeFi Summer？ 因为 DeFi Summer 里面今天来讲，所有 ICO 起来的所有的东西都是资产。你看到所有都是资产，每一个只要发个币，我们都理解为它是资产。而这些资产，刚才讲了，我们在17年到18年整个的这1年时间里面，1年多时间里面，上线的大概以太坊上面差不多有2万多个资产，2万多个资产，我们可以理解为它有很多是垃圾资产，没关系，它都是资产。但是呢，我刚才讲了，就 Binance 最猛的也就2个 Q 才上了340个资产，那剩下19700个资产怎么办？谁能解决这种矛盾？这个冲突怎么解决？所以说，有了 Uniswap， 你不需要有个中心化的交易所来去上线，来去交这个上币费，来去慢慢一个一个的去上。我这19700个资产，甚至这2万个资产，我都可以互相的去兑换。但是这里面价值怎么去恒定？啊，这第一个有了 Uniswap， 第二个，所以你需要有个锚定币来去做，所以有了 MakerDAO 贷。对，然后呢，慢慢发现这里面有一些资产又有一些价值了，所以有了 Compound、AVE 这样的这个平台来去为他们提供这样的一些这个借贷服务。对，所以这一系列的慢慢下来，就形成了所谓的我们今天 DeFi 的3件套啊，借贷、交易、稳定币。对，那这是第二个，就是你能够投资的机会就是 DeFi。第三个呢，就是区块链的2.5。所谓的以太坊革命者，但今天来看的话，好像都没有太革命，对，甚至都成为一个笑话。但没关系，它至少是一个创业机会。为什么呢？因为你会发现，只要试图去解决这个问题，或者真正能解决这个问题的这个项目，都成功的融到了很多资，也都赚了很多钱，或者是从投资机构的角度，它的回报率都很高。比如像 US， 比如像DOT 啊，波卡。等等这样的一系列的这种项目，那这都是要去尝试来去解决，或者是来去做的。这个我觉得就第3个周期里面，你只要能做这几个事情，都是能成为独角兽的。但如果不是这几个事情，确实都是比较难的，就没有说做的特别大的。对，那今天来讲，很多朋友会问，那接下来我们第4个周期，2020年到2024年，其实今天都已经2023年了，这个周期里面能做一些什么样的事情？能投什么样的项目？你能有什么样的创业机会？其实你会发现非常的难。为什么呢？因为其实这个前面总结复盘都是比较容易的，就是所谓的马后炮。但实际上到今天来去看的话，会发现其实你要真的能投到好项目，或者你自己找创业机会方向是比较难的。但今天我们要去看一下一些独角兽的话，或者说看一些今天的一些投资机构的一些一些领头的话，其实是能够找到一些规律的，也能够看到嘛。那首先说我会有2个判断，第一个判断就是在接下来这个里面呢，它会有一个巨大的一个这个爆发，有2个方向，第一个就是技术的底层的这个爆发，第二个就是这个应用层的爆发。在这2个赛道上面来讲呢，就一个是要么你为行业推动，要么推动行业的发展，要么推动社会发展。就这个其实从上面来去看的话，这其实都是比较好的这种投资机会或者创业机会。对，那我们回到这里面来去看的话，其实在每一个波动里面，其实这个我们会预测来在未来的这个5年呢，比特币这个整个的 crypto 这个用户呢，会由今天的这个4.2亿人呢，可能到10亿人口。那如果是这样的一个情况下，今天的这个，以及我们今天会问我说，那你们今天还要去为什么要去搞 Web3？ 今天 Web3 又做了一些什么样的事情？ 今天这是很多人在问我的，或者是一直在问我的一个问题。那我们会去看到呢，其实现在来去看的话，其实是一个比较可以看得到的东西，就是今天的 crypto 这个整个的这个市值是1万亿美金，1万多亿美金，最高的时候之前是3万亿美金。那如果它不增长是什么情况，或者增长又是个什么情况？如果它不增长，逻辑上我们今天在座的都没有什么在从业的价值，因为你做一个行业不增长，那在这边来做什么呢？如果我们是基于它的增长的逻辑，那才去做的。所以我们到5万亿到10万亿，第一就是这个第一呢，它的市值从1万亿到10万亿的时候，它的这个必须要有第一个东西就是呢，你要去走向合规。你如果不走向合规的话，其实全球的政府没有任何一个政府会允许一个10万亿美金的一个市场或者一个100万亿美金的市场游离在监管之外。所以这也是我们今天能够齐聚在香港一个重要的一个角色，就是我们看好就是 crypto 里面就是合规对 crypto 的一些影响。第二个这个 crypto 的用户也是一样的。那我们认为未来的5年是这个今天来讲4.2亿到这个10亿人口的这么一个状态。那这里面它就需要有大量的这个应用层的这种爆发，而不是说我们今天只说我们今天只是在这边去开几个交易所啊，搞点这样的东西，那没有用的。你必须要Stephen 这样的产品，以及更大众化的一些产品推向市场，才有可能从4.2亿人口变成10亿人口。对，那这是一个我们的预测的一个状态。那今天来讲，全球的这个互联网的用户大概是46亿左右，全球的互联网用户是46亿。那今天这一份报告呢，其实是去年彭博社和这个 Crypto.com 他们一块来去做的一个报告。那这个报告呢，大概是4亿的 Crypto 用户。但我个人认为这个数据是有一点水分的，就我个人认为这个数据是有一点水分的。按照所有的这个交易所相加，他们原来应该采用了相对比较粗暴的算术，所以我个人认为是差不多2亿左右。那也就是其实应该也是渗透率在5%左右的一个数据。对，那这样的一个数据代表什么呢？代表其实真的就有点像1998年的，这个，对，像这样的一个数据就特别像1998年的这么一个1998年、1999年的一个互联网的一个用户数的一个交叉点。所以在这个时候，其实还真的就是有点像区块链的萌芽期。但是不好意思啊，确实这个萌芽期喊了10年了。13年的时候我去当时跟别人讲比特币的时候，我就已经说萌芽期，但今天讲它还是个萌芽期。对，它还是个萌芽期，就相当于1999年的这个全世界的这个互联网。在那个时候，人们对互联网也会提出很多质疑。互联网除了能看新闻、发邮件能更快一点，还有什么用？你看新闻都不会更快，因为那个时候不像今天有这么多自由新闻工作者，你没有办法随时的上传你的新闻。就那个时候就会有当时这个互联网泡沫的时候，就有很多人来去对互联网提出质疑。今天也是一样的，我们会发现主流社会、媒体、政府都会提出一些质疑。你区块链能做什么样的事情？你们不是说好了这个要去做普惠金融吗？要去让这个世界变得更美好吗？那区块链今天除了开了几个大赌场，不好意思，这个开了几个交易所，那还做了一些什么样的事情？对，没有发现你没有去为社会创造价值，你没有为人们的生活中的方方面面去做一些提供更便捷、更方便的一些服务，你没有像我们以前所说的，我们要去让这个世界的公平更高效、更公平、更普惠。这是14年的时候，很多我去当时一讲的时候，很多中国的地方政府官员问我，和一些投资媒体问我，我跟他描述了一个未来。今天其实我在新加坡来去跟别人在新加坡，因为我18年到了新加坡，然后到新加坡跟很多政府机构来去讲的时候，还会有很多问我，你们区块链到底做了一些什么样的事情？所以我现在其实我只能去安慰自己，它应该就是在1999年的这么一个状态，但是这确实也是我的一种，不仅是一种安慰，也是我内心的一种认定。它确实需要发展，就跟互联网技术从一开始，也不是说 马上就有新浪，马上就有百度，马上就有 Google， 马上就有 Facebook， 就有今天的滴滴、Uber， 不是的，它也是需要几十年的时间。但Crypto 其实把这个时间缩短的。为什么会缩短？第一是来自于今天互联网的信息技术发展，另外一个东西更重要的是，当时我在 NUS 当时有同学在问我说，为什么叫币圈一天人间一年？我不知道这里面有多少有这样一些有听说过这样一句话的，币圈一天人间一年。其实当时我有个简单的回答，因为在传统世界里面讲，我们的知识分享，我们的所有的东西，这个优先的发明都是有专利保护的，都是有知识茧房的。但是在 Crypto 这个领域里面，在区块链这个世界里面，它是没有的。我们是以申请专利为耻，以开源开放为荣。并且我们真的会让这些发明者会得到他的，因为他有 token 这个机制，会得到他该有的奖励，而不用原来最传统的专利保护来去奖励他。当然，我们不是要去抨击专利措施啊，因为专利措施也会给发明者带来更多的利益和他的这个发明的动机。但区块链这个事件，我们每个人都是踩在巨人的肩膀上，以太坊踩在比特币的肩膀上。我们今天踩在以太坊的肩膀上，每个人都要把他最好的东西，把他想法开放出来，并且要写出来，写在 paper， 让大家知道我怎么想的，并且把它技术、把它代码要开源出来，让我们能够马上去在上面去 fork、去微创新、去再创新。这是让这个世界变得更快的、更高效的，所以它的速度，我个人认为是要远超于互联网的发展速度的。所以这也是为什么说我对未来的5年充满了信心。那当然，这是1999年的这个互联网的这个状态。对。所以在1999年，当时我们这个其实今天我说类比的，我们也会发现，今天我们的这个世界，区块链世界也是超级大物种大爆发。每年新增的这个独角兽的区块链企业，特别在2020年新增了大概40多个，但在以前每年只能新增1、2个。但随着这一波，我个人认为是每年会超过100个的，会超过100个的这。就我们今天来去看的话，就我认为在下一个周期是要超过每一年会超过100个区块链独角兽企业。而这里面随着独角兽企业的这个增加，另外一个也会带来什么呢？就是今天会说，那区块链会有没有什么泡沫？有这么多泡沫，我们会发现今天在座的各位和17年开会的这个各位，他的人员的这个资金体量、从业素质、从业的人员的履历、学历都有非常大的提升。所以今天我们再去看创业者的时候，在17年的时候，我们可以看到很多项目是土狗。为什么是土狗？但今天我们再去看今天的从业者，这个哈耶普斯麻基本上一堆一堆的名校，一堆一堆的这种传统的这个金融的这个从业者，一堆一堆的这种技术大拿，传统的互联网的高管。他们不好意思来加入的时候，都只能去做一 co-founder。为什么呢？因为我们这个状态里面需要所谓的原生的这个创业者，所以你会看到很奇怪的现象。包括我们投资也是一样的，我们其实不太愿意去投非常有经验的互联网的人去做 founder 的项目，我们非常愿意去投这种非常 native 的一些年轻人，这种00后、95后、98后的一些创业者，带着一帮30多岁的。或者是一帮这种互联网的这种原来传统大厂的高管，这是我们最喜欢的团队。这个我到那我们讲一讲再花2分钟就讲一讲这个ABCD 的这个投资理念，其实就是很简单，要么投树干，要么投树叶。树干就是最底层的技术。就是谁能够推动技术的这个行业的这个技术的发展，所以说这里面有很多最硬核的东西，那就找我们就好了。第二个呢，就是投这个叶枝茂，这个上面的这个叶树叶。所以这个比如说你能够去增加的用户量，比如 Steven 这样的项目啊，比如你能够去搞大规模的应用啊，包括 GameFi 等等这样的东西，这都是我们比较喜欢的，包括 NFT。我个人这个没写上去啊，我个人投 NFT 其实现在投的非常的这个痴迷 我自己大概每天有1个小时来去研究 NFT。我个人认为ERC721的市场规模远大于ERC20，并且市场规模应该是100倍，所以如果大家有去做 NFT 项目的，随时欢迎来找我投资。我们大概最近半年应该投了大概5个 NFT 的项目，对。这个当然这个也讲了讲这个简单的 NFT 啊，所以大家如果有 NFT 相关的项目可以随时找我。那当然我们也会就刚才讲的就是相对比较硬核一点的这个技术项目，那我们比如像投了Polyhedra， 投了 HKCEC， 那这样的项目其实都是我们投的最早的种子轮。那接下来看一下，其实都是像 Polychain 呢，包括Balance 啊来做的下一轮，包括 Animoca 做的下一轮。这都是非常非常硬核的这种 ZK 的这个项目。那一个是这个包括 HKCEC 其实做硬件加速的。这个第二类呢，就是说的这个应用层的这种项目，那相对于偏上一点，怎么能够去拓大市场规模的？那像 Particle， 这个主要是做这个钱包的，能够让 Web2 的用户到一键连到 Web3 的来去做的。那目前日活基本上总个用户也超过100万的。那包括像 NFEX， 那这个都是属于刚才说的 NFT 的这种项目。那这个项目呢，其实刚上线1个多月吧。其实也蛮不错的一个项目，那当然这个呢，其实算是一个小广告了，在这个星火科技，星火科技呢是我现在主要是来去负责的一个公司，那他们主要的这个业务呢就是这个 MPC 的这个钱包多管，所以这里面如果有这块需求的时候，当然可以随时找我们的星火科技的同事，对。OK， 谢谢大家。这个时间不多，所以如果大家有什么需要投资方面的一些想法的，随时找我交流。谢谢。
好，谢谢杜军先生的精彩分享。Next, we have Henry Zhang, founder and CEO of DigiFT. He will show his valuable perspectives on bridging DeFi and TradeFi with regular solutions. Let's give Henry a warm welcome.
大家下午好，上午好。那个，因为我看那个在场的，好像华人的面孔比较多。本来呢是组委会说讲英文，那我想这样的话，我还是用中文来讲吧。资料是用英文做的，但是我用中文来讲，可能对大家更方便一点。在开始之前的话呢，能不能请那个工作人员放一下我们的一段那个小的视频，40几秒，谢谢。 好，谢谢。接下来的大概20分钟左右时间呢，想跟大家介绍一下我们 DigiFT 做的事情和我们做这些事情背后的一个理念。为这次演讲呢，我起了一个题目，说是那个 Bridging DeFi and TradeFi with Regulated Solutions， 就是我们怎么来嫁接传统金融跟现在非常热门的话题，就是去中心化金融之间的一个桥梁。 然后呢，这个桥梁搭建的方式是用一种合规的方法。那么，我本人来讲的话，我是从传统金融的背景，然后呢，对技术对金融的影响是有非常痴迷的一个观点。另外，我觉得现在大家把金融技术跟传统金融好像有点分割，但我觉得呢，我有点稍微不同一点点的观点。其实金融行业 从它一诞生开始，就是对各种各样技术采用的最积极的一个行业。从历史上角度来讲，不管是通讯技术、电脑技术、互联网技术、移动互联网技术， 到现在的区块链技术，其实金融行业对这些技术的采用，往往是在大多数行业里面的领先者。可能除了那个军工行业之外，金融行业是对这些技术采用量是最大的。那么现在进入互联网，我们觉得进入区块链这个领域，我觉得金融行业也是会对这个技术会非常非常多的应用，而且互联网那个区块链这个技术，它具有非常强的金融属性。那么，所以呢，我们组建这个团队，我们团队的一个特色，当然来自于各个不同的行业跟背景，但是一个最简单的一个特色，我觉得我们应该是 deep fin 加 deep tech， 就是深度金融加上深度技术的结合，来完成我们成为我们讲的那个 mission， 就是 bridging the gap。DGFT 是一个什么样的一个平台？简单讲，我们有3个特色。DGFT 是个交易所。DGFT 这个交易所交易的是什么？这是第一点。作为一个交易平台，我们的专注不是虚拟货币，我们专注的是叫 security token。security token 呢，现在有很多不同的翻法，有的把它翻成就是后面有那个资产作为底层的，就是 asset-backed token。或者叫是证券型代币，或者叫资产的通证化。那么现在还有一个词呢，叫 RWA， 叫 Real World Asset， 就是真实世界资产，把它通证化。所以我们这个平台专注的不仅是虚拟资产，也包括跟实体资产的通证化。第2个特色呢，作为一个平台，我们运用的技术是大量的去中心化技术。所以 DGFT 从平台的性质来讲，是一家去中心化交易所，是个 DEX。第3个很有意思，从我们2年多前开始这个项目的时候，我们就深深地认为去中心化金融一定是个大趋势。那么金融如果是个大趋势的话，是不可能规避监管这个话题的，除非这个是个伪命题，这件事情永远做不大。那么监管也没有什么兴趣来关注，但是我们认为这件事情是会变得越来越大，那么监管是早晚会进来的，所以从第1天开始，我们就想做一个合规的去中心化交易平台，所以是一个 regulated DEX。这些话题放在一起呢，大家觉得好像有一点那个不是特别的，好像有点魔幻，因为现在的去中心化平台怎么可以合规等等。这个我们有一点自己的观点，然后跟大家分享一下。为了说明我们的定位呢，我们这里画了一个图，就是把现在大家可能比较熟悉的那些交易所都列了一下。那么纵轴指的是合规还是不合规，那么往上的就是所谓合规，这是有牌照的。在下面的话呢，就是现在是没有牌照的。没有牌照并不一定代表非法，在现在来讲，但是它是没有牌照的。但是横轴来讲的话呢，左边就是对区块链的应用比较少，右边就是对区块链的应用比较多。那么这里举2个例子，大家如果看左上角那个圈，就是1号圈。1号圈里面呢，就比如说纳斯达克这样的我们说传统的交易所，那它是肯定是非常合规的，但是它对区块链的应用呢几乎是0。那么跟它相比较的话呢，比如说右下角第5个圈，像 Uniswap、Compound 这些我们说的是 DeFi 的交易所，或者其实是 DeFi 的 protocols、DeFi 的协议。那么它对那个去中心化的运用是非常非常充分的，横空出世的。但是到目前为止的话呢，是没有持牌的。那么在这个过程当中呢，你有一些大家比较熟悉的一些交易所，我们认为它处在是中间，它可能有些在部分地方持牌，但它对中心化的更多的是中心化交易所，所以对那个 DeFi 的应用是一部分吧。那么在这个图里面的话呢 ，DGFT 想占据的那个角色定位就是右上角，就是既充分利用去中心化的技术，但同时又是走合规的路线。那么这个象限就是右上角，不仅是因为它很空白，而且我们认为这个右上角是代表将来的一个很大的一个机会，所以我们从创立开始就想定位做这么一个角色。为了支撑我们这么一个理念，我们有一些想法。 提出来呢，请大家批评指正。首先第一点呢，我们认为所谓的去中心化不代表去监管化。大家很多人不管现在从监管的角度，还是从市场的从业者的角度，大家都认为去中心化是不能被监管的，是不应该被监管的，或者是不可能被监管的，有这么一些概念。但我们不是特别认同这么一个概念，因为去中心化的话，它更多的是一个技术范畴的一个讨论，去通过减少中心化的节点。其实去中心化有一些定义，大家认为是叫去中介化。我认为这个概念是很有意义的，是减少不必要的中介，这是去中心化这个技术点对点啊，客户自己持有资产啊带来的核心意义，非常非常好。但是这些意义和你受不受监管，其实之间是两个范畴的讨论。所以我们有个观点，去中心化不代表去监管化。第二个，所谓的中心化跟去中心化，我们认为中心化和去中心化这两者之间不是排他的，就我们叫不是 mutually exclusive 的，不是说是零和一之间你必须要选一个。与其说是中心化和去中心化，我们更多的认为它不是零和一的选择，排他性选择，而是零和一之间处在一个什么状态。如果这个项目更多的是像0.8、0.9，它看上去更像是一个去中心化的项目；它如果是0.2、0.3，看上去更像一个中心化的项目。我们认为现在已经看到的一个明显的趋势，其实是中心化跟去中心化之间两者都是可以结合起来的。这也说明了去中心化跟中心化它各自有它的优势，我们应该把两者之间的好处结合在一起，产生的一个融合，这是我们另外一个观点。那么第三个观点呢，其实跟现在的监管是有关系的，那就是现在很多大家认为叫数字原生跟数字孪生。如果我们说把一个债券把它 token 化，那就更像一个数字孪生的概念。那么债券本身是证券，那么把它变成 token 以后，那肯定是证券。那么现在有一些从业者在争论的就是说那些叫数字原生的资产，就是 native cryptos， 那种各种各样的所谓的币，大家争论它到底是不是证券。那么现在有一个趋势，特别是过去的6个月之内，通过大家右边的我们举出来的这些消息的一些截图，大家可以看得出，现在监管采取的一个态度，应该这个趋势比较明显。他会认为越来越多的所谓的就算是原生性的那些代币或者叫 cryptos， 也可能会被定义为证券。那么一旦被定义为证券或者证券性质，那你如果再要去发行它、交易它，或者甚至就是提供建议，那可能都要成为一个持牌的一个范畴。这也是最近对于所谓的合规这个话题越来越热门，越来越得到大家的关注，不管是主动的还是被动的。认为，所以我们有这几个基本的一些理念。基于这些理念的话呢，我们也提供一些数字供大家参考。一个就是刚才包括前面杜军也提到过，现在整个的所谓原生性的数字资产，它的总的市场份额总量吧，我们叫 market valuation， 大概是一个1万亿美金左右。那现在币价上升，可能还会上升一点，但是差不多是1万亿美金的一个数量级。那么跟它相比较，单是一个黄金的市场价值就有13万亿美金。那如果是我们讲的资本市场250万亿，那是指上市的股票。那么房地产本身还有几百万亿。那在这个之外，还有很多未上市的债券、未上市的股权，还有一些另类资产，比如说艺术品等等。这些资产如果加在一起，它的数量级很轻易的就达到了1000万亿级美金的那个数量级。比起我们现在原生的数字资产大概是1万亿美金，那是后面加3个零。那在这个过程当中的话，把有一部分的资产如果能够把它变成通证化，就 token 化的话，那个市场份额会丰富很多。这是我们的一个观点。其实大家很多人在讨论token 是什么东西，通证是什么东西，好像很玄乎。我们认为这个事情其实并不是这么玄乎，很容易理解。就是在上面讲的第一个观点，其实通证就是一个拥有权的一个表征。在人类的历史上，最早的拥有权是一张纸，比如说一个房产证。 现在更多的是一个电子凭证，是有一个记录，比如你的银行存款、你的股票存款股票的余额。那以后 token 出来以后是基于区块链的，那 token 本身也就是一个所有权的一个象征。那这样的话呢，这个 token 就是所谓的拥有权的一个很自然的一个演进。那么基于这个拥有权，那它的发行、它的交易和以后的借贷等等，就会产生很多新的一种形式。这就是 token 带来的一些效率。那么，同时第三个点呢，简单说一下，就是所谓的 RWA 资产的通证化，不仅是把现实社会中的一些房产啊、一些股票啊或者一些债券，简单的把它变成 token， 这只是第一层。现在出来很多话题叫 tokenomics， 因为现实世界中的上市的股票其实长得都很像，纳斯达克的股票、港交所、新交所的股票，其实股票的性质都很像。这个东西其实窄化了它里面的经济利益。那么 Web3 里面呢，给大家创造了很多新的一些做法，叫 tokenomics。你比如说是 GameFi、X Infinity， 它的 token 代表你的利益其实是多重的。现在我们做的那个 liquid staking， 你不仅是可以拿4%的那个那个 ETH 回来，好像是个固收产品，但是 ETH 的价格如果又涨了1倍，那你的回报可能又是翻了1倍。这些就是 tokenomics。这些在现实中的 RWA 或者是现在的传统金融里面，要实现这些手段是非常复杂的。但是变成 token 以后，很多手段就很方便。那么另外呢，再给大家2个数据很有意思。原生性的资产非常好，横空出世，我个人也很感兴趣。但是原生性的资产它有它的一些局限性，比如说原生性资产比较少。现在大家比较认同的是 BTC、ETH 和它的一些 proxy。除此之外的话呢，形成共识的资产比较少，这个是大家比较认同的。我再给大家举一个例子是什么呢？我认为是个很大的一个问题，就是原生性数字资产里面，它价格的相关性是很高的，就是 correlation。俗话说，要涨一起涨，要跌一起跌。这里面呢，不仅是 BTC、ETH 要涨一起涨，要跌一起跌。我们做了一个小小的图，这里面那个深色的那个黑色的线或者深蓝色那个线是 NFT 的价格，我们做了一个简单的价格的一个指数。然后下面那个橘黄色那个线呢，是那个 ETH 的那个价格。大家看，在同样的时间轴里面，这2条曲线的波动是很相似的。这就是说什么呢？就像 NFT 作为一类有资产的、有价值的资产，它的价格波动其实跟 ETH 的价格波动是高度相关的，是高度相关的。很多地方就不仅是看你那个 NFT 它本身的艺术价值，并没有完全体现出来，它就是跟着 ETH 的价格波动在波动，大多数时候，所以价格的波动性很强。那么另外呢，我们在显示这张图，我给大家解释一下，这张图是什么呢？这张图是非常 DeFi 的一个项目，就是 MakerDAO， 就是那个贷的稳定币的发行方，它的社区的资产的配置，就是它的 Treasury。右上角的话呢，是它 Treasury 配置在不同的产品里面的一个比例。那么最上面是什么呢？最上面就是 Stablecoin， 就是稳定币，浅蓝色的部分。然后最下面是什么呢？最下面是 ETH， 这就是那个 MakerDAO 现在资产分布的一个不同币种。中间有一个蓝颜色，中间一个蓝颜色是什么呢？蓝颜色是 RWA， 就是 MakerDAO 现在的整个的 Treasury 大概有15%是分布到现实，就是真实世界资产。简单讲就是买债券，以债券为主的美国国债，还有一些债券，现在占到 MakerDAO 整个的 Treasury 的15%。并不是很多。有意思的地方是在哪里呢？是下面那个图，是对 MakerDAO 这个社区的利润的贡献，就收益的贡献。最上面是最大的，占50%，谁贡献的 ？RWA 贡献的，是 MakerDAO 自己去配置的那些真实世界资产，贡献了 MakerDAO 社区的50%的收益。原因是什么？很简单，稳定币是没有利息的 ，BTC 是没有利息的。美国国债是有利息的。我们说就是很多原生性代币，它的 cash flow model 是并不清晰的，或者说比较弱的。 但是 RWA 里面的很多的资产，特别是固收资产，它的现金流是非常清晰的。美国国债现在就有4点几的收益，就这么简单。所以 MakerDAO 作为一家非常 Web3 的一个 protocol， 它15%的资产在真实世界，50%的利润来自于真实世界资产。这个也是我们认为 DeFi 跟 CeFi 融合的一个很好的一个例子。那么这里面举一个例子，那么 DGFT 说我们要 bridging 两边，那么我们举一个我们的 use case。最近呢，上个月我们发行了一个产品，因为我们是持牌的，新加坡持牌，新加坡 MS 持牌，所以我们是可以合法的发那个 security token 的。那我们也发了一些产品，这是我们刚刚发的一个产品，很简单。我们为什么叫 perpetual bond reference token？ 其实呢，就是把一个银行的债券把它 token 化，做了这个工作。然后呢，不同的地方在哪里呢？我们不仅是可以接法币的交易对，我们也接了 USDC 的交易对。就是换句话说，作为一个 DEX 的平台，您现在手里如果有 USDC 在你的 wallet 里面，成为我们的客户以后，你可以直接通过你的 wallet 里面的 USDC 跟我们的系统进行交互，非常 Uniswap 跟 Uniswap 很像的交易体验，你就可以直接买那个真实世界资产，买这个银行的债券。这个银行的债券现在的 coupon 是8%，发行方是谁？不是小银行，是巴克莱银行，英国的巴克莱银行。那么这样就打通了那个 cryptocurrency， 就是 USDC 跟真实世界之间的一个桥梁。否则的话呢，你要把 USDC 换成美金，美金到银行开个账户，然后存进银行，通过银行的理财经理去买一个债券，一手最起码20万美金，然后 T+2 交易，卖掉的时候也得重新走一遍，那整个的摩擦是非常大的。那么通过这种桥梁我们搭好以后，你就直接在你的 wallet 里面就直接进行买卖了。可能在几十秒之内，我们现在用的是以太坊，以太坊还是现在最慢的主链，大概也是在我们算过99%的交易在45秒钟之内就可以完全完成，而且是可以7天交易。那么这是一个挺好玩的东西。最近呢，我们又碰到了一个千载难逢或者是10年难逢的一个场景，就是正好是 USDC 脱钩，在我们3个礼拜发行前，正好是 USDC 脱钩，我们就发现这个产品还有一个好处。它是可以对冲 USDC 脱钩的一个很好的产品。怎么说？就是你把 USDC 买成这个产品，然后如果过了1年以后 ，USDC 如果脱钩20%，假设，那你把这个产品在卖掉的时候换回多少 USDC？ 你可以换回120%，就是120个 USDC， 我们叫是有本位。如果你用有本位来计算，就是120，同时还有8%的 coupon， 那你的回报可能是128。那么对于那些特别相信有本位的那些投资者来讲，这就是一个很好的对冲 USDC 贬值的一个产品。那同样的故事可以用到那个我们的 ETH 啊，1到 BTC 的方法来讲。好，这一页呢，大家反正简单看一下，这是我们认为做了一个持牌的 DEX for Security Token。那么我们当然可以做 tokenization， 可以做交易，可以用去中心化的方式。然后又是合规的，同时又是保证那个交易的可以做所谓的证券型的代币。比较于市场上的，大家也有很多不同的平台，那么有的呢只能做那个 tokenization， 有的呢只能做交易，但有的做的交易呢可能是并没有拿到牌照，所以合规方面是存在一些问题。所以我们希望把这些间隙能够填补到它。那么对 DGFT 来讲呢，最后一页跟大家很快介绍一下，我们也是个很年轻的公司，虽然里面的从业的人经验还是很丰富。那么我们大概从2年半前开始这个项目，为什么那时候开始这个项目？就是那时候整个的 DeFi、DEX 这件事情开始出来了，我们认为这是一个非常巨大的一个市场机会。那么我们也是在2022年的6月份就进入了，就是1年前吧，10个月前。进入了新加坡的监管沙盒，所以我说我们是 regulatory compliant， 是合规的。那么这点来讲呢，我们也有点小自豪，因为到目前为止的话，据我们所知，我们可能是全世界第一个，也是唯一的一个，到目前为止是合规的 DEX， 而且是被一个主流金融市场认可的，是新加坡了。那么香港现在也在看这个，所以我们对香港这个市场也非常看好。那么 我们也得到了市场的认可。虽然去年特别是第4季度和下半年是一个资本的寒冬，但我们反而是在这个时候，去年年底的时候完成了我们的再一轮融资，所以我们准备在这个基础之上再进一步的发展。我们也发行了进一步的产品，给大家简单介绍了我们这个虽然很年轻，但是也是非常丰富的一个历程。好的，谢谢大家，希望有机会跟大家交流。
谢谢亨瑞。Then comes our final panel, which is also the most enlightening one. We will feature innovative narratives for the future of DeFi. Let's welcome our moderator, Ben Wee, VP of Crypto.com Capital, and our speakers, Jimmy Yin, co-founder and CEO of Izumi, Kevin Feng, head of DeFi at Wu Network, Pan Hu, head of APAC at Paraspace, Chris, co-member of Curve and founder of Mr. Block. Let's welcome their exciting discussion.
Hey everyone, thank you very much for taking the time to attend today's panel titled Innovative Narratives for the Future of DeFi. My name is Ben. I'm currently a VP at Crypto.com Capital, the venture arm of Crypto.com, a global exchange with more than 80 million retail customers. Today, we have a very exciting lineup of panelists across DeFi and NFTFi. And today, I think let's start off maybe by having each of our panelists introduce themselves. Jimmy?
Hello guys, I'm Jimmy from Izumi Finance. We are building a multi-chain to provide liquidity as a service. We have 2 main products. First is the EasySwap, which is a Uniswap V3 plus order book trading platform, fully on-chain. And another is the Liquid Box, which could help you to actively and smartly to manage your liquidity on-chain to get a stable yield and also to prevent the impermanent loss. Okay, happy to share more with you today.
Kevin?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kevin. I lead DeFi at Wu Network. Me and my team built our decentralized exchange, which is called WuFi. WuFi is a multi-chain swap-based DEX, and it offers robust cross-chain swap and single-sided yields. And we recently also launched our new product, like an order book-based DEX, building on top of Orderly Network. Excited to share more today with everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Pan Hu, and I'm the head of APAC for Paraspace, and we are a cross-margin lending protocol for, to unlock liquidities for your ERC20 tokens and also your NFTs. So basically, we have a lot of features like ape staking, NFT staking, and buy now pay later, and ETH instant on stake, etc. And our mission is to really bring liquidity to the 1 billion people, and then we want to be in the future a universal lending protocol. Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Chris from Mr. Block and Curve. Mr. Block is a YouTube channel that been producing crypto tutorial content since 2017. I make daily videos about DeFi, and Curve is a decentralized stablecoin exchange DEX. Yeah.
Cool. So let's start off by discussing the current macro environment. What are you currently seeing in the space, and how do you think that this will affect adoption of DeFi? Jimmy, you want to go first?
For me? Okay. For me, I'm optimistic, but not very aggressive for this year's microeconomy. Especially for DeFi, I see the M0 of DeFi is the stablecoin packed, maybe the stablecoin like USDC and USDT. We see the TVL for USDT and USDC has been stable for mainly like 3 months. The number is not increasing and not decreasing. So that means that not too much volume and people are entering crypto and on-chain environment to buying or to do more trading. So maybe for me, from my personal perspective, I think this year will be quite fluctuating, and also maybe doing some LP strategy will be good. And we are also looking forward to the development of the fundamental technical layer, like the layer 2s, like optimistic rollup and also ZK rollup. And also we are very optimistic about the development of the user interface, a better user interface, like the abstract account and also smart wallet. So with better infrastructure, I believe maybe the late of this year or the next year will be much better.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a macro expert, but I think what happened in the last 12 months with all those centralized players, I think people start to realize the importance of self-custody. And because like when your funds are on a centralized platform, when something happens, like you have no power, you have literally no control over your assets. You only find out the issue like when things like blow up, right? But what I'm bullish on is I think these incidents I think are pushing both sides to improve. Now we have seen all the centralized exchanges start to provide more transparency. Everyone is providing the proof of reserve. That's become almost like a standard. And then on the DeFi side, I think the DeFi builders also realize that you cannot just provide a user experience that only suits DeFi native. You have to improve the user experience, onboarding, less onboarding friction, so that you can like serve those like CeFi users, right? So that they can also enjoy like the self-custody and trustless of DeFi. So yeah, I think generally it's really it's good for the industry, and CeFi and DeFi is going to coexist, but both sides needs to improve.
Yeah, so I feel like we've all been under the pressure of the recent, undergoing global market that's not being so good, and then, but I actually think that there's a cool part of it that DeFi is actually going pretty stable, and then it's actually somewhat getting some growth even, and then I think what's we are observing very interesting shifts happening after some of the centralized exchanges, and then also some of the platforms turned belly up. So I think money is actually being flowing into these DeFi spaces, and then I am very optimistic about the future. I think DeFi is going to be a very important role as of the future of the finance, and then I think people are starting to realize the real value of decentralized system, and so I'm bullish on it as well.
Okay. I think the fundamental problem in DeFi right now is still security. Not necessarily transparency, but more importantly on, exploits. If we kind of look back for the past 24 months, the ones that are recorded of exploits has a north of $6 billion worth of dollar that's been stolen. Multiple bridge hack, multiple DeFi hacks, and more often we see that from new projects that are trying innovation. So this not only scare off retail to try to use new product, because now it's not like DeFi summer where you will chase after high yields and just YOLO and go in and FOMO. Most people here, if you've been using DeFi, you probably have experienced a rug pull or an exploit that you lost money from it. One experience might deter you from trying new DeFi product again. Like just last week, there were 2 DeFi protocol attacks. Last month, Euler got exploited, $250 million, and that protocol had over 10 audits. So I think this year, as a content creator, I see a lot of DeFi project, new DeFi project. More importantly, I see a lot of Anon project. Many of these projects, they are innovating, but not necessarily innovating on a smart contract base, but they use existing smart contract. We could call them forks, right? And repurpose them. We see projects that are utilizing MakerDAO smart contract, Liquidity smart contract, or even Abracadabra, and try to create new stablecoin projects that are not USD based. we see lending protocol like Aave that's been forked and become Radiant Capital on Arbitrum, repurpose it and take different assets as collateral. So I think in 2023, we're going to see way more projects that are utilizing existing smart contracts that are battle tested and try to repurpose it, redesign it for a new narrative. So not necessarily creating a new contract that hasn't really had a track record and this, I feel like this isn't a good thing. It's like a love and hate situation because in technology you want innovation, right? But it's hard to innovate when all these engineers are under so much pressure. Imagine when your protocol get exploited and you really hasn't done anything wrong. You're not a bad guy. But now everyone look at you as if you've stolen the money. So I think that's still, like I said, security is the biggest problem right now in DeFi. And that's the main reason why everyone is afraid and why everyone want to become anonymous. Yeah.
Cool. So just to summarize, it seems like all of us believe that DeFi is going to be the future because it's non-custodial in nature. But some things need to be improved. Things like account abstraction to make things more easy for end users, and of course to make things more secure from a smart contract kind of basis. Cool. I think my next question for the panel is. Most DeFi protocols are forks of incumbents on Ethereum, as Mr. Block, you've mentioned quite a bit just now. Could you talk a bit more about the innovation that you're seeing in the DeFi space, or what would you like to see to be built in DeFi? Jimmy?
Sure. From my personal perspective, I think the next big step for DeFi first is to welcome to more users instead of just focusing on a small circle of the DeFi OGs. So maybe the first step for that is to get the CeFi users on board, like the trading users or some lending users who got hurt in the last year's bankrupt and also got hurt by the FTX. So maybe this will be the first step. But to get this part of the users on board, maybe there will be main parts innovations need to be done. The first one, I think, is the better user experience. Just like I just said about the wallet and also the better user interface or the order book trading on the chain or many others. These small picks will come together to provide a holistic, better user experience for the users. And together, maybe 95% of the CeFi users of the crypto into the existing DeFi world. So I think security is the most important thing, and non-custodial is very attractive for the DeFi OGs. But we need to spread these ideas and also to make a very easy access to all of the users to get them on board. So this will be the one main step for the DeFi. And another part, I think, is built on the, especially by the better infrastructure, like the layer 2. This means, because let's take GMX as an example. If they are built on the Ethereum mainnet without Arbitrum's high speed and very low latency, and there will be a lot of front runs and MEV attacks for GMX on the Ethereum mainnet. Suppose if in this situation, they will never achieve this high TVL and the success. So with better infrastructure like layer 2 or alt layer 1 and better like node service, RPC service, I think a better infrastructure will encourage more builders to try some new things. So some things may never happen on Ethereum mainnet, but they may have opportunities on the layer 2s. Something like the GM's success, and also something like for Izumi, we are building the EasySwap, which is upgraded Uniswap v3, which could combine the concentrated liquidity and also the order book on chain. But for Ethereum mainnet, the gas fee is too high, and also there will be a lot of MEV attacks, so we will never make it happen on the mainnet. But for layer 2, especially some ZK rollup in the future, I'm very optimistic about this, about the innovation about this part. Yeah, so better user interface and better infrastructures, all of things will get more users on board and provide a better, very solid foundation for all of the DeFi innovations.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about Izumi's liquidity book in a short moment as well. Kevin, you want to?
Personally, I think DeFi actually do not really lack of innovation. I think what we want to do better is try to earn the trust from users. Like just echo what Chris just mentioned. Like most people think of DeFi, they associate DeFi with rug pull exploits, right? How do we win back the trust and get more user on board? I think a lot of those battle tested protocol, they are deployed on all the different blockchains. The trust that brought by the brand is actually very powerful because people are very comfortable depositing big size of their assets in those smart contracts. While I think for a lot of the new protocol, they shouldn't focus on attracting big TVL because it's kind of not responsible. Like if you are a protocol that has not been proven or battle tested, you're just trying to add more like Ponzi like tokenomics, and then try to attract large TVL, you could end up being exploited. The chances are very high, right? So I'm more excited about the development at the app level, maybe more application that build on top of some of the existing battle-tested protocols to help onboard user. And I think also like there will be different front ends that build for different type of users, maybe on top of the same liquidity layer. Some of them could be more suited for a native DeFi user so that they can control everything. They can control like even which RPC they connect. They can control every single step. But some of the front end could be just built for more like CeFi user. So those applications can try to like abstract everything for user. They can abstract the chains, even the RPC, even the address, right? So this way, like you can onboard more user, and at the same time you're building on top of a very secure layer of like smart contract. And I mean for some of the new project, we can actually focus more on like improving the efficiency instead of just like attract like a really big TVL.
Cool. Mr. Block?
Yeah, no, I think what my fellow panelists said is really well, and then again coming back to the security question, it's one of the main reasons, and then I think setting up parameter such as minting cap or TVL cap is a way to kind of slow down kind of this APY or kind of this TVL chasing phenomenon that we're seeing a lot. If you look at DeFi Llama, multiple protocol, their TVL are down like 99%, and it's not like a regular phenomenon, right? We're seeing that because everyone had this FOMO and degen, like the word degen almost become cool, right? You want to do something reckless, and then it's like if you hasn't done anything reckless, it's not cool. But yeah, coming back to the topic, I think this year, again, we'll see some, I think, product or project specific that are building specifically for a certain project. And what I mean by that is, like what we said earlier, we see lending protocol forks on every chain. We're seeing that on every L2 right now. And then we're seeing Uniswap forks on every chain. We're seeing stablecoin fork on every chain, right? But then the liquidity are like divided out everywhere. And then if you look at some protocol like Lido or MakerDAO or Curve, their TVL alone is probably bigger than most of the chain out there or most of the L2. So I'm starting to see a lot more projects that are no longer building chain-specific product like, oh, I'm forking Aave and going to L2. But then they're kind of echo what I said earlier. They're repurposing an existing contract to build specifically for a certain product. For example, when we look at Curve, you see Convex. Convex and Curve are now kind of symbiosis, right? You have user that are providing smaller liquidity that has not that big of an incentive to lock CRV, would choose to provide liquidity via Convex so that they can have X amount of boost, right? And then we're seeing user that cannot, that want to save on gas fee and would use Concentrator, which is a product built on top of Convex, so that they can compound their yields, right? So now we're seeing multiple products like that are building on a specific DeFi protocol, right? We're seeing Votium, Llama Air Force. These are bribery protocol that are built for Curve, right? That if you have VCRV or if you have VLCVX, you're just holding them, right? So now people will bribe you and say, hey, can you vote for my pool? So I think that type of like ecosystem, kind of, it's quite unique right now in the DeFi world. I think multiple protocols are trying to, adopt that design, and it's very hard to build on a single token protocol. That's why we're, I don't think it is possible to, to build something like Curve without, Convex, Votium, Llama Air Force, these different DeFi protocol that's on top of it that can kind of retain the yields, retain the incentive. Yeah.
I think what you said about composability on top of Curve fits very well with what Kevin mentioned about building on top of core primitives. So completely agree with you, Mr. Block. So our panelists today are actually come from very, very diverse backgrounds, right, across DeFi, NFTFi. So I want to ask them very specific questions about each of their particular protocols, right? Starting with Jimmy. So, AMMs are one of the most used products in DeFi. And with the AMF curve itself being a huge innovation in 2019 when Uniswap kind of came out. So how do you think AMMs will kind of evolve over time? And do you think like the end result will look something like what you're doing with Liquidity Book on Izumi?
Yes, I think AMM, especially after the Uniswap v2, is a huge innovation for whole DeFi world. It makes the trading and non-custodial liquidity providing possible, and also make trading very easy to get to every users. So I think they will be suitable for most of the long tail assets on the chain, especially we see a lot of centralized exchanges. They charge a lot of listing fee and charge a lot of market making fees. And they don't provide some qualified service like Crypto.com or Binance. They just charge fees and maybe rug pull. So I think in the maybe next cycle, most of the long tail assets, especially they get their users on chain, they get their application on chain, they will be traded on chain, and there will be LPs earning the yields on chain. So the Uniswap v2 model, the traditional AMM model, will be quite suitable for these long tail users. But for some like the mainstream trading tokens like the Ethereum, BTC, or some others, the capital efficiency is quite important, especially compared with the centralized exchange. So that's where I think more innovations are needed. Like the WooFi, they did the order book, and they built a lot of the innovations by trading, by market making, and we are also trying to improve the capital efficiency and lower the entrance of the liquidity management of Uniswap v3. All of the things. Oh, we saw the news maybe in the last week. The Uniswap v3's volume surpassed the Coinbase. So especially in the mainstream token like Bitcoin or Ethereum, that's quite surprising. But I think more surprising things will happen in the this year or in the next year with these innovations, with better liquidity provision and also with better like the liquidity management. So for long tail tokens and mainstream tokens, I think AMM are different to them. And maybe for some mainstream tokens, order book are needed on the chain. Yeah, so that's my opinion.
So, Kevin, Woo Network, of course, is a centralized exchange, right? And increasingly, we see CEXs increasingly explore ways to build their own DeFi solutions. Would you talk a bit more about WooFi and how you see the synergies between the CeFi and the DeFi business?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, a lot of people know Woo probably as like a centralized exchange or trading platform first. Yeah, because Woo itself, like we have a centralized exchange called WooX. Itself is already like aggregated. It provides like aggregated liquidity on its order book, and it offers zero fee trading. So all we want is like more order flow, right? So in 2021, like we started to think, what will be the like a better place than just go on chain, attract the order flow on chain. So that's why we started to build WooFi. So WooFi is basically a multi-chain swap. And basically it's simulating our centralized exchange's liquidity on chain, on all the chains we deploy. Now we are on 6 different chains. So we are able to achieve like high capital efficiency on especially the majors. And also because like basically on every single chain, we are providing the same liquidity, even on some small ecosystem, for example, like Phantom. Usually, the TVL on those DEXs are relatively small, but with WooFi, we can basically just always provide the CeFi level slippage and pricing for user regardless of the chain. Yeah, so that's why we started to explore more. I think later on we start to explore more direct user-facing features. So we started with cross-chain swap back in 2021. We're probably one of the earliest DAX that offer one-click cross-chain swap, just because our liquidity on every chain is almost equal. So when you swap, for example, if you want to swap BNB into like Arbitron token, for example, on Arbitron, you can do that in one click, and you will not have like high slippage. The cost and slippage is basically the same as if you do that manually, like swap, bridge, and swap. So we find that's actually a quite useful feature for users, and that it's actually being very actively used recent days. And the other thing we did for direct user is, although our liquidity is provided by professional market maker, but we find a way for user to actually provide liquidity for our DEX and also earn yields. The way we do that is user can basically just deposit assets in a vault, and those assets will be lent to the market maker to provide liquidity on WooFi, and the market maker will pay interest to the user. So the user is basically earning like a single-sided passive yields, and without the need to worry about impermanent loss. And they basically delegate the liquidity management to the professional team in exchange for like a yield, right? So I think what we want to achieve also, I think in the DEX space, I think more and more professional players are participating in the market. So a lot of people, you guys will swap on aggregators, but you probably don't realize that a lot of your trades are processed by a professional market maker, either through RFQ system or through maybe a DEX like WooFi, and also there will be the liquidity is a combination of market maker and DEXs, AMMs, right? So it's already happening, but it's actually good for user because overall user get better trade execution. Yeah, I mean, I think with all the multi-chain ecosystem, I think we at least at WooFi, we just want to provide like user a unified experience to access the best liquidity and best yields on different blockchains.
Right. So Pan, NFT-Fi is an emerging space that combines both DeFi and NFTs. Could you tell us a bit more about the NFT-Fi space and why NFT-Fi is needed?
Yeah, sure. So NFT-Fi is a relatively new area of DeFi that combines NFTs with lending and borrowing. So it allows NFT holders to borrow against their assets without really selling it. So it unlocks liquidity for them while they can still maintain the ownership for their NFTs. So when we actually think about it, everything we own are pretty much non-fungible, right? From our cars to our homes. So that's why we believe NFT-Fi is going to be the driving force behind the next wave of economic freedom and activities. So NFT is actually way more just than a profile picture, right? So there are actually tons of new other use cases that goes way beyond that. For instance, for Paraspace, we are working very closely with Stakefish. We're going to support them for their ETH validator ownership via NFTs. So with this innovation, the users who are holding an NFT, they can actually have a ownership of their ETH validator, and then we, Paraspace, would provide liquidity for those NFTs. So imagine that you can obtain this and use ETH validator as your own collateral and then gain more liquidity, and then you can set up even more validators. So that's what we do with them, and pretty much we are just going to supply for the liquidity for all those 18 million staked ETH. So I think it's pretty awesome, pretty amazing, right? And so at the end of the day, I think I believe that we are goal is just to build the infrastructure for this NFT-Fi, the growth of this industry ecosystem, and then we are very bullish on it. And then what's the best thing about it is that we're not alone. Like, we're here with everybody. You know, there are so many talented people in this industry. We're all working at the same problems. And then we're very honored to be part of it. And we are very honored to have the opportunity to collaborate with everyone to take this industry to the next level. Thank you.
So, Mr. Block, Curve is one of the most OG protocols in the space, right? How do you think Curve will evolve over the coming cycle?
Okay. I mean, I guess one of the stuff that's been focused a lot on Curve right now, and probably the community knows about is the CRV USD, right? So I think the decentralized stablecoin market has an issue, the elephant in the room, which is it's not truly decentralized. The biggest decentralized stablecoin right now has 55% of their collateral being centralized stablecoin, and then 18% being real-world assets, right? So there's not much decentralization there. I think, protocol like Curve launching its own stablecoin, redesigning how liquidation work, how bonding curve works, creates a new opportunity for decentralized stablecoin. Other than that is what we mentioned earlier, the composability part, where you have protocol that are, again, building specifically on top of Curve. That's something I myself are looking forward to. We're seeing protocol that are trying to build different type of stablecoin, for example, not necessarily the Curve stablecoin, but protocol that are trying to build Swiss franc, for example, Japanese yuan, Korean won. So I think this year we might see a lot more of these foreign currency decentralized stablecoin, because right now 99% are USD, right? And then you have probably 1% in euro, and you don't have any other stuff. So if you're a true DeFi user, you can't get exposure of Japanese yen at all. Yeah, and other than that is, like I mentioned earlier, bribery market is huge on Curve. We're seeing, different protocols that are building specifically for the voting market. We're seeing Y-Earn and Stake DAO that are sharing these voting rewards to their stakeholder, which are now competing with Convex. So there are more and more competitors that are building on Curve that are competing with other yield aggregator, and then most of them try to create better incentive and more user aligned. It aligns with the user's interest more. Compare with back then. If you think about YFI used to just be farming and dumping token, right? It will dump the token automatically and compound the yields for you. Now they kind of changed their way, becoming they will keep the token and then help you recompound back without selling your rewards. So you know what they say, right? Like there's a saying in Chinese like 挖提卖, right? They 挖然后提出来然后卖掉. That kills pretty much 90% of the DeFi protocol, right? And then if you think about it, like Curve has been giving out rewards every single block since they launched their token, and it's not dead. It's pretty much the only protocol that has survived 挖提卖, other than Bitcoin and ETH, pretty much. Yeah.
Got it. So we're coming to the end of time, right? Can we just end off by naming an interesting protocol featuring some kind of innovative mechanism and why you like it? The trick here is that you cannot name your own project, so it has to be something other than your own project. Jimmy?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Actually, we keep an eye very open to all the protocols in DeFi world. like Chris said, I'm very interested about the CRV-USD and also the stablecoin issued maybe by the 8th this year. I think the algorithm stablecoin will be the very big pump for the whole DeFi world. So there are also some like Hong Kong dollar, some CNHC, and also some other stablecoin reserved with the Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I think this year, if the on-chain environment and also the liquidity is good, the stablecoin will be a big trend. Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah, certainly we are more interested in like a lot of the trading protocols, right, and some new trading opportunities. I think like obviously GMX is one of the. I think it's probably in the last year is one of the project that really become one of the blue chip, other than the old ones. And the other thing maybe it will be those order book decks. I think could be a lot of potential for that because it provides CeFi trading experience at the same time offer decentralization and self-custody. Like one of the project we work very closely with is the Orderly Network. They're providing the infrastructure for WuFi to build on top.
Mr. Block?
Yeah, man, it's hard for me not to mention about Curve, but I think, there's so many interesting protocols, even, with project that's on the panel here. And I think I think personally, what I see is, especially as a content creator, I do 10 videos a week. I talk about all these protocols. I talk about Izumi before, I talk about Wu before, in 2021. And so, but what I'm like the most right now, and what I like to see is protocol that are not building something super big. I feel like we overvalue everything. If you think about it last year, everything has to be 9-figure valuation. And every good blue chip has to be a 10-figure valuation. It seems like something wrong about it, right? If we look at startup project and equity market, you'll be happy if it's even $1 million valuation, right? So I think we cannot value a lot of these protocol that high, because it's just like that. If you like something and you have huge expectation of something, then you drop harder. You feel a lot worse when it drops down. So I think I look at protocol that has a smaller dream. They want to fix something very small, not necessarily fucking compete with everyone else, but like do something little bit. That's why I was talking. I mean, I'm gonna say Curve again, but it's not about Curve. It's about product that are on top of Curve that are probably fixing this little part, and then potentially they might have a token. I don't know, but and just like what Kevin said earlier, they don't have to have 100 million TVL. I've seen protocol that are super healthy on their balance sheet, and they only have less than 10 million TVL. But they have a healthy balance sheet and a healthy community that are not looking for, 100x. Yeah. So I'm interested in those protocol. Yeah.
Cool. Looks like we're at the end of time. So thank you so much, panelists, for taking the time today. And thank you, of course, audience, for taking the time to watch our panel titled Innovative Narratives for the Future of DeFi. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, you.
Yes. Thank you all. Okay, so here comes to the end of our stage. Thanks again to all of our speakers for sharing their knowledge with us today, and also a big thank you to all of our attendees. We hope you find it engaging and gain new insight on DeFi. See you at the next one.